It is the women's preview show. Gentlemen and Six Pack Lapadat, Eric Helms, Rory Lynch, Matt Gary. We got some battles on the women's side. We got some new faces. We got some old rivalries returning. It's we're going to see some fireworks. We're probably going to see history made. We're going to start as we usually do, lightest weight class, and work our way up to the heaviest weight class. I'll kick us off. First and foremost, in the 47 kilo class, the rivalry from yesteryear, I remember 2022. This was the rivalry because 2021, Heather Connor, who was the reigning goat of the 47s at the time, multiple time world champion, did not make it due to the split with USAPL. And Turbo Tiff, a junior, young upstart at the time, did make it and won the world championships. Of course, the conversation becomes, would she have been able to do that if Heather was there? And it was a discussion. Heather had posted up a bigger total previously, but not at IPF Worlds. So there was a bit of a debate back and forth. Now, Heather could say, you post up like Gary would emphasize, you only post up what you think you need to win at the world championships. So there were question marks, invalid ones on both sides. Had to settle this. 2022 rolls around. Turbo Tiff is coming into her own, ends up winning the world championships. And ever since then, it's been Turbo Tiff's era. The baton has been passed from Heather Connor to Turbo Tiff. And Turbo Tiff now has collected 4 world titles. I believe all of them as a junior, which in and of itself might be a record. It's freaking crazy. But my, do the tables turn? Heather Connor is returning to IPF Worlds, and we're going to have one more go at this rivalry. And a little exciting because in early April, Heather posted up the biggest total of her career, despite being in the second half back 9 of it. Heather looks like, well, not just looks like, is, as a matter of fact, on the platform stronger than ever, posting up 425. Very close to totals we see would win the world championships at IPF Worlds. Now, having said all that, I'll break into a little bit of the scouting. So, Heather Connor, in terms of the squat, and I'm not seeing all of her top end stuff, but I know she's hit a PR in squat, a paused PR. She's hit a rep PR for 6. She hit 147.5 and posted it May 29th. If you're keeping track, 145 is what she hit on the platform. So squat is moving well. No sign of any slowing down there. Taking a look at the bench press, best bench on the platform is 75. I seen 70 kilos for a double, so likely in and around on pace for that. Obviously, bench is a tough one to move when you're 47. We can only move up in 2.5 kilo increments. And even if you have an improvement, it won't show. It'll be somewhere in between that 2.5. So bench is a tough one for these 47s to move and show. It doesn't mean there's not improvement, but showing on the day can be difficult. However, bench looks like it's holding steady. And I've seen a 195 triple on deadlifts. She's pulled 205, and 195 triple is obviously very big. Will that calculate to 205 or more? Could easily. And all you need is like 195 when you're in the gym, and just putting in work is a whole lot different than Team USA tells Heather, you are pulling for the win. My God, you need this. Wow. She might get all types of fired up, and who knows? It's a whole nother ball game at that point. Needless to say, though, from my scouting, Heather looks strong. Heather looks real strong. 425 or up. And taking a look at Turbo Tiff. Now, Turbo Tiff, I see in May 11th, she posted a 170 squat. For a little bit of comparison, 165.5 is her platform PR. 170 is huge. I've also seen that she posted up in April 11th a 455 kilo gym total. Now, we got to take gym totals with a grain of salt. Back in the day, she used to not cut for a 47, but as she's grown older and keeps smashing more weight, she's gotten more muscular. She definitely does need to cut for 47 now. I don't know what her body weight was at that far out in early to mid-April, and they don't compete until mid-June. So probably didn't even start doing an aggressive cut. Where exactly her body weight was, I'm not sure, but 455, that's freaking huge. That is a monstrous total. Even if she was a 52, that's freaking competitive as a 52. If we're, I won't get ahead of myself and start forecasting Turbo Tiff's future, but if she went full blown, hey, I said all I need to say at 47, I think going 52 next year, she's an instant contender. Okay. So, anyways, put a pin in that. She is all time high for strength. The question for me now is how muscular is she getting in terms of how harder and harder is this cut going to be? And how much does she impact her overall strength levels and performance in that regard? Before I swing it around to everybody else, let me also take a look at some of the other contenders because we do have some strong ladies here. Vicky from Australia, if you remember last year, unfortunately, she was the sacrifice to the bench gods in terms of that rule. Controversially, so they stuck it to her. And I remember her saying afterwards, well, I was the sacrifice. Hopefully everybody's okay afterwards. Well, she's back. And Vicky's had a great prep. In terms of the bench, if you're interested, did 92.5 kilos, posted that April 19th, just for a little comparison. In comp, she's done 91.5. And as I scroll over to my notes here, she's done 399 as a 47. And she did 406, slightly over 47 at 48.5 kilo body weight. So she's hovering around that 400 kilo mark. Now, obviously, that's going to be too low to threaten the elite levels like Heather and Turbo Tiff, who are both all-time greats, but definitely strong enough to possibly contend for a podium. And I say possibly because Italy's Analia Amata coming in with 397.5. This was from April 7th, which is relatively soon. So both her and Vicky both floating around 400 kilos. We're talking, given the day, maybe 2 kilos separate Vicky and Analia. Now, Analia, in terms of my research, I seen a 152.5 for a set of 5 on deadlifts. She's deadlifted 168.5 previously. Vicky, actually, I seen so 399 at 47 in February. And Tao, my lady friend, actually sent me a video of Vicky. Yes. So Vicky just the other day posted up 417.5 to end her prep.
Yep.
417.5. Now, 417.5 by Vicky. If Heather has a bad day, that might even threaten, that could possibly threaten Heather. I don't think, I can't remember the last time I saw Turbo Tiff as low as 417.5. Heather 425 is new ground. That's a PR for her. But the thing is, I think Heather's on point from everything I'm seeing. Heather is not going to have a bad day. Heather should have a PR day. But whatever. I'm just saying she's close enough. If Heather has a bad day, she could threaten. More than likely, Vicky is looking like settling around the bronze medal position. But proof is in the pudding. And like I said, the Italian is rather close. Also, got to say, Simone Lai from Canada. I'll give a shout out to the Canadian 381 coming in. She's done mostly equipped since 2022, but a 4-time Worlds veteran, won a bronze medal at last year's Equip Worlds, and a 10-year veteran, and is back at IPF Worlds. Like to see these veterans, these 10-year vets return back and been. I remember her back at 2019 World Championships when it was her and Heather Connor, actually. Both of these grizzled veterans back in it. Love you'll love to see it. So I'll throw it out there to you, gentlemen. Rory, I know you were the B team on the scouting for this one. What are your thoughts here?
One thing that I want to keep in mind with Tiffany Chapon Turbo Tiff is that she does not have a good hit rate for attempts. She like very often will take like a relatively heavy opener, uh, what I would call like a small to medium jump to her second attempt. And then, frequently we'll just like miss her third, or we'll take a very small jump to her third attempt to be successful. So like, yeah, she's definitely one of the stronger women in this class. But if she can't put together attempts, if she can't string together a good number of attempts on the day, she's not going to get the total that she's capable of. And like on a good day, she's probably good for 440. But she's not going to get 440 if she comes in and misses her third squat, misses her third bench, potentially even misses her second squat, right? And we've seen these kinds of performances from her before. Heather and Vicky are actually my front runners here. I think Vicky has really leveled up since Worlds last year. She got like quite hard done by the bench calls, in my opinion. But since then, she has put in a lot of work, and that 417 that she did just, I think it was like 24 hours ago, was just really good. Like it wasn't easy. Like I'm not looking at that and going, yeah, she can eke out kilograms on every single lift, but that 417 total is just really solid. And that might be enough by itself to get on the podium. But depending on how other people shot, that could be enough to win. So I think if I'm picking a favorite to win, my favorite to win is still Heather Connor. Like she's very, very strong. Possibly most importantly, she has the biggest deadlift by a lot. And so even though she will probably be trailing on subtotal, she can see what everyone else is up to, what everyone else is doing, and deadlift whatever it is she needs to deadlift to get ahead. And it may not be as much as 205. It may be a little bit less than that. And that's a really strong position for her to be in.
Let me say something right off the top. I love the slightly disheveled lead guitar hair look you got going right now, and I'm jealous. And but I'll get that out the way. It needed to be said. I think all of us are thinking it. Second off, you're actually thinking Turbo Tiff, who we are in the Turbo Tiff era. I mean, it's been a historic run in the 47 kilo class. Won every single worlds, won all of the showdowns. Like you meet her at Sheffield, wherever you meet her, she's been undefeated since 2021, since she's burst on the international scene, and you're picking an upset. And look at Heather Connor, like freaking has a resume like whoa, no doubt, no doubt about it. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. I agree with all your points. Look, Heather's phenomenal. Vicky is definitely coming into her own. That 417.5 was eyebrow raising. She's a threat. Well, that's a big call.
Yeah, yeah, it is a big call, I think. I think Tiffany is struggling more and more with the weight cut, I think, and it's like punishing her more and more over time.
Because I was about to say, what were you think that? Because obviously she's incredibly strong, but it is the question of like we haven't seen her total on the platform dip below 430s. I don't believe I'd have to let me check this up. So you would have to think Heather is above 430 now, and for this to be pulled off, which she might. Look, she did 425, and she's still PRing in the gym, so it's reasonable. But I don't know. Eric, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I gotta be the voice of dissent here. I remember my first world championships that I coached at is when I saw Heather Connor win for the first time. And she actually tied to win. And that was back in the era where 370s were really, really good for a 47. And now we're in an era where we're probably going to see for the first time the entire podium start with four as their numbers, which is pretty cool. Kind of echoing back to yesterday when we talked about potentially having the supers on the men's side be the first time we see 1,000 and up. This is kind of the women's very opposite scale of the weight classes, which is neat. So here's the way I see it, Ryan. Rory made some valid points, but I think there's some other things that we need to remember. Heather and Tiffany actually have relatively low hit rates compared to the rest of the field. And that's not to say that Heather can't bring it when she needs to. I just mentioned that, for her first win, she, actually tied to get her first title. Um, and this could be totally me just reading into things, and this may anger Heather if she hears it. But I have seen different, what I perceive to be athlete psychologies over the course of her career. There was the up and comer, I want to be a world champion fighter. She's definitely highly competitive. There was the I'm the confident world champion who's not that well opposed. I'm fending off a lot of people for a while. And then there was the, oh, there's some new people on the scene, notably Tiffany Chapone, and maybe not being able to put together on the platform what we would see in training. Historically, I think we've seen Heather Connor's training be a little bit better than when she's actually on the platform. Some of that's related to travel or things outside of her control. And she's going to be traveling to Germany, and that's not very far from France. It's a further trip away from the States. And one of the best performances we've seen out of Heather in a long time was her competing unopposed. So is this a resurgence, or is this being able to compete domestically and not have the competition pressure, and her being able to put together what she's always been capable of? So is she on the rise, or are we just seeing that, when kind of the stars align in her favor, she's able to put together a bigger total? And I think that's going to be the question mark for me. I think where is Heather's confidence? You know, where is her headset at? If she's in a really good spot, gets there early, doesn't have any travel related issues, I think she could give Tiffany Chapone a run. But I think Tiffany's looking solid. Actually, just on May 19th, she did, probably one of her peaking days, I'm guessing. A triple on 150, a single on 102, and then a triple on 155. So even though she may be having a tougher and tougher time as she builds muscle and matures, making weight, she's coming in with a bigger reserve each time. So I actually anticipate that she'll still be in the kind of like 430 plus range. And I don't know if that's touchable. I just don't, I don't think that is there. So I think there's not any room for her to start missing. But remember that she's going 430 typically on 6 or 7 out of 9 days. So I think Tiffany's got this locked up unless she makes a fumble. And even if she does, you've got Heather Connor who has a similar hit rate. So I think we are going to see probably Tiffany Chapone in first. And then there's, in my opinion, much more question as to who's going to be second. Can Heather bring what we saw at PA Nats? Or will all of these people who are now cracking into the low 400s catch her slipping if she's inconsistent? And she's probably going to be pulling for the win because she's got that big deadlift, and that's going to be a gamble. There may be a decision where she has to go, do I pull for first and risk third? Or am I going to secure second and fend off people and stay on the podium or something like that? And it could even mean slipping off the podium. So there's going to be some challenging decisions if Heather is not coming into the deadlifts going with a lot of attempts under her belt. If she's going 8 for 9, then she's probably in a good spot to fight for the win. If she's coming into deadlifts 5 or 6, then she could be in a high pressure situation. Let's put it that way, and let's see how she performs.
Let me throw this out there because I misspoke earlier, and let me know if this changes anything the way you feel about it, Eric. But Tiffany Chapon, in Silent Worker 2024 as a 47, 430. In the World Championships Lithuania 2024, 433. Previous 47 in 2024, 431.5. So all over 430. However, let's enter into the end of 2024 as a 47, 424, Sheffield, 426.5. And when she hit 432.5 early this year, she was 48.4. So
Yep.
the last 2 times she was a 47, she was 424 and 426.5, which is Heather Connor range right now. And when she hit last time she was 430s, she was a small 52. Now, Rory would tell you that's what I'm saying. Previously, when she's hitting 430 and up as a 47, we're going back a stitch. More recent 47 kilo totals look to be closer to Heather Connor range. So I don't know. It's look at it's freaking it's gonna there's intangibles there's a toss up. I don't know if that sways you at all, or if you're like, nah, at Worlds, it's not swaying you.
No, I mean, that's like a 5 kilo difference. She
Yeah,
hasn't totaled under 420 since, from the last 2 years. And I think that like that's not that's obviously reachable, but like I said, I'm not like 80% confident that she's going to win, but if I would bet, let's put it that way. I've
yeah.
got 60-70% confidence that she'll be the winner.
I love the two sides of both you guys giving your opinions on it. I'm gonna let Matt Gary chime in, and maybe he splits this even.
I'm going to work from the bottom up just a little bit. Let's start with Vicky. I think last year was really frustrating for anybody who was watching that. For her to, as you said, be that sacrificial lamb because of the bench depth rule. And I think one of the things we run into at World Championships are the lifters in the lighter classes in the earlier sessions have the benefit of fresh spotter loader crews. They have the benefit of a pristine platform that is free of any divots and so forth. However, on the flip side of that, they oftentimes are the ones who have to deal with harsher conditions in terms of judging, because referees are out there. It's the beginning of the week. They're like, look, we're going to lay down the law. We're going to call a tight game here. And then as the week goes on, while the platform and the crew gets fatigued and the platform gets worse, the judging loosens up a little bit. And that can be really frustrating. And so I will say that Vicky's training has looked on point. I hope that the judging is fair, that it's consistent. She looks to be in top form. The 417.5 that she hit yesterday looked amazing. Don't know if she was on body weight, but I'm just very hopeful and looking forward to seeing her put forth her best total. When we come to the discussion that we just had regarding Tiffany and Heather, one of the things about Heather is she hasn't traveled well, to Eric's point, and she's had some, according to her documentation post-meet, some absolutely horrific travel scenarios. So I would encourage her to get there as early as possible to get all that stuff sorted. Traveling, making weight, all of those things are part of competing. It's not just lifting on the platform. And so she needs to button that up, and she needs to dot the I's and cross the T's. Fun fact, she has not made 3 squats at an IPF World Championships since 2016. So Heather, if you're listening, you have got to make 3 squats. You have to come out of the squats clean. I know that at this strength, range, we're only talking about 5 to 7.5 kilo jumps. However, that's a huge difference when the totals are circa 420, 430. So Heather has got to make 3 squats. She has to get out of the squats clean. I mean, it's really non-negotiable. She can't put herself in a position where she's going to have to load up, 210, 215 plus to make up that gap after a missed squat. Now, to her credit, her deadlift has shown up a little bit better internationally when comparing it to her squat, right? And the bench just kind of seems to be chugging along at 72.5, maybe 75 on a great day. All of that being said, I do agree with Eric. I do agree with everything that he said. Tiffany Chapone has averaged 429.5 total in her last 6 meets. And that's with about a 6.4, 6.5 hit rate. So even though she's missing quite a few attempts there, she's still averaging a 430 kilo total. And the only thing that I would say to Tiff is, if you look at her open powerlifting and you look at her deadlift, the last 3 meets, she has tried a 172.5 on the final attempt, and she has taken 3 different deadlift strategies, and it's not working. And so they've got to get that sorted. I don't know what it is. And look, I'm guessing that it's Silent Worker and the other meet in France. I don't know who was coaching her. It's the national team, obviously, or presumably maybe when she's at Sheffield or World Championships. But the strategy that they are using to sort out their deadlift attempts is clearly not working, because they have missed, it looks like 5 out of 9 deadlift attempts in the past 3 meets. And so there's going to come a time here in the near future where that comes back to bite you. And I don't think it will be this time. I do think that, to Eric's point, I think that Tiff is far enough along that she'll be able to secure the W again. But in the probably not too distant future, we're looking at a situation where you come out of deadlifts with 1 or 2 deadlifts and it's going to bite you in the ass. So those are kind of the things that I'm looking at when we talk about the 47s.
I want to add to something that you said there, Matt. So Tiff has not had a third deadlift in 3 meets. She's missed 172 3 different ways in the last 3 meets. She has not had a deadlift PR in 6 years.
Yep.
It has been 6 years since she hit 170. She has never hit 172. She has missed 176. She's missed 172. She's missed 175. She's missed 171. She's missed 177.5. It just keeps going and going, right? Something about what she is doing with deadlifts, both with attempt selection, but possibly also with training, because that's a really long time, is just not working. Like something is not working there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is interesting. I think this is one of the better showdowns of IPF Worlds. And you have at the top 2 ladies with absolutely phenomenal resumes. And it'll be a clash. If somebody has a look, Turbo Tiff, with how many times she's won in a row, no matter who you put in front of her, from Heather to Jess to, phenomenal record at the top under pressure. No question. And I do think she's the greatest 47 and has the best resume now. I think we can safely say that. But still, this is a good one. And if Heather can spring the upset, because previously it was Heather who was the GOAT 47, and then Turbo Tiff since 2021, her resume has been phenomenal. But if Heather springs off the upset, it'll start begging that question all over again. Now you got to reconfigure. All of a sudden it's like, wow, but she came back after all these years and got a win over Tiff at Worlds, no less. A lot at stake here. And I agree with you gentlemen in that Vicky with 417.5. Now this is back in Australia. Travel from Australia all the way to Germany. She could do it. If she can do that and build upon 417.5 and press into the 420s, Vicky might establish herself as well as a threat for the future. And these ladies better watch out. And if Turbo Tiff keeps it going at 47 and can continue that cut, God bless. But if she ends up moving out, that just creates more room for ladies like Vicky and the next wave to start coming. Because Tiff looks like she could be a threat anyway. She's an immediate threat, a weight class up. And that temptation of becoming a 2 weight class world champion, we're talking all-time greatness, right? Very few people can pull that off. Speaking of the 52s, you gentlemen ready to move into the 52s? Let's do it. So obviously 52s is Evie Corrigan land. Taking a look at some of Evie's lifts in prep for this. So her squat on the platform, 172.5. I seen in prep a 165 for a double. That's rather close to her top end for a single. Looks like her squat is on point. Her bench press on the platform, 107.5. I seen a post May 27th. She hit 107.5. So her bench press looks on. And deadlift, 208.5. Absolutely monstrous deadlift. Serves her well should she need to pull her last deadlift. And she doesn't always have to. And I seen her pull in prep, 195 for a double. So you got to think her single. And I don't know if she's doing pardon me, I didn't make a note whether there's an SBD day, but likely over 200 kilos. What can you say about her? She's the best 52, the strongest 52 we've ever seen. Ever since she cut down the 52s, became an instant star, and she looks on point from my estimation for what I could see online. But New Zealand got one hell of a 1-2 punch. And Megan Lee Smith coming in with a total on the platform 466. It's monstrous. 172 squat. Now back in December, weighing in at 52.9, she squatted 181.5. That's back in December. That's freaking half a year ago, but that is a monstrous squat. I seen her also do her bench press is 102.5 on the platform. I seen her do 95 kilos with a 3-second exaggerated pause. It looks like her strength levels are up and she should be ready to go. I haven't seen a whole lot of posting beyond that, but judging off of those, I mean, Megan Lee Smith is all types of strong, 466. Can she mitigate that gap and threaten Evie like no 52 has ever been able to do? I don't know. I'm not sure. I know a lady who can threaten Evie at 52, but we're going to have to pause on that one for a second. I won't let the cat out the bag on that one, but Evie will have some competition at 52. And as a matter of fact, Evie might be the underdog. Ooh, juicy. But put a pin on that one. I'm gonna make you wait for it. Canada, Catherine Gagne coming in with a squat 171. I seen back in January, and Kath hasn't been posting much, but take 160 for a double, 90 kilos for a double, and her platform best was 92.5. Now this is back in January, and she's competing in June. What do you glean from that? I don't know. I could tell you, historically speaking, in terms of her competition in 2024 nationals, she did 438. And then at Worlds, she did 417. She was very unhappy with that Worlds performance. She's back for possible redemption. Since then, in September, did 443 and then 440 just in March. So if you're looking for strength levels, more recent than January, and obviously competition, the whole nine, 440 in March. That's good, but is it good enough? Because you got a killer like Plun Deckers and you got Noemi Alibert also in the mix. Now, Plun Deckers, 175.5 squat. She's an absolute squat monster, breaking world records, winning medals at Worlds, Euros, a major threat. And I seen her April 7th post up a 167.5 squat for bench press on the platform, 90.5. In comp, May 3rd, she posted 85 for a triple. So her bench press is definitely on point. And deadlifts, 177.5 on the platform. I seen May 3rd, she posted up 165. Of course, in March, she hit 442 to win Euros. So 443, 442 is where she might be. And that's going to be right in the line of fire for Canada's Catherine Gagne. But Noemi Alibert has previously done 454. Noemi, multiple time worlds, but suffered a lot of injuries. And we've seen her total dip in March at Euros, 432. That's well below what she's previously capable of. That 454 is way back in March 2023. So fast forward 2 years later, and her total is dipped 20 kilos or 22 kilos, which is a massive dip in the 52 kilo class. However, if you're from France or a Noemi Alibert fan, her PR deadlift is 200 kilos. May 3rd posted up a 200 kilo deadlift. Now, I don't know if that's after an SBD day, etc. You take it all with a grain of salt, but there's reason to hope, a little bit of reason to believe maybe she's turning back the corner. She's an all-time great. At one point, she was by far the number one and looked extremely dominant, winning by good sections, healthy margins, until the emergence of Evie Corrigan at Sheffield, at the inaugural Sheffield in 2023. Since then, she's fallen on hard times with injuries. I'm not sure where I put her based off of the training that I've seen. But if she's 100%, definitely a podium threat. I don't think she's going to cover the gap to be able to beat Megan Lee Smith, although Megan also not posting a whole heck of a lot. But she's a threat. But in my estimation, that podium, we have three ladies hovering to get on there between Noemi Plun and Catherine Gagne of Canada, and it's tight. And Canada, a 1-2 punch in the 52s also do not look past Marie Joaquin, 431.5 kilo total. Training's been going very well for her, as well as Gainer Metzinger from USA, 430. I mean, to get onto the podium, you have So many ladies who, if they put on 5 to 10 kilos, which we see that all the time, they're on the podium. You have other ladies, if they have a dip, you miss one dead, you miss one squat, you're out of contention. Getting on the podium is going to be very, very difficult in the 52 kilo class. I think there's going to be battles all over the place, and these national teams got to play it extremely tight. This might be one of the tightest weight classes to get onto the podium. The difference between third and freaking what are we at? Like eighth is super tight in terms of class. When you just look at the standings, you're like, my God, you came in seventh. You got creamed. No, 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 no. Any given day, you would have been a medalist at Worlds. That's how close all these ladies are. And I mean, they're breaking world records. They're multiple time world's medalists, and we're talking it'll be a fight to be top five. But on top, it appears as though, at least historically speaking, Evie obviously major favorite, and Megan Lee Smith right behind her. At least if you're looking at what these ladies have historically done. There it is. Let me throw this to Eric. Eric, I know you're friends, and then Rory, I know you're also a Kiwi, and you probably have pipelines down to the top two nominations and what you guys have heard.
Yeah, so I was kind of hinting in one of our prior recap or preview shows, I don't remember that Evie has been dealing with some things, and I was like, but to be clear, it's nothing crazy. It's cat's out of the bag now. She's moved and lives in a different country. So her and John Strachan, they live in Thailand. John is also a longtime coach and representative of New Zealand, Team New Zealand. He's actually going to be competing himself as well as coaching this year at Worlds, which is cool. Good to see him doing that again. And it seems like Evie has settled into her environment and his training's back on the rise. So I know she was not super happy with her performance, kind of being right around where it was in that 480-ish mark. But if you look at her training and where she's at, she seems to be in a spot where she's potentially at her peak. Um, how much she can extend, from what she has established as a 52, I think is a good question. She's definitely fallen into a rhythm and she knows how to be a 52 and she can train, progress. She's not like getting hurt. She's not hating life. She would enjoy eating more. I know that, but hey, that's the price of being a generational lifter in the 52s, right? So I could see her top end probably being around 490 if things go well. And I think that's a really good sign. Megan Lee, Megan Lee Smith, also a very, very consistent competitor. Both of them. This is a cool thing about the two New Zealand ladies is they're both have high hit rates. The New Zealand team is quite good from a coaching perspective. And I do foresee that they're going to do well on the platform. Megan has not been showing a lot of lifts, and I think that has been historically indicative of her still improving. So the question you posed earlier is Megan going to push Evie? I'll say this: I don't think Evie will be able to afford to not take her last deadlift this time around. I think
Mm,
she's
good.
probably going to have to use every round in her cartridge, as Matt would say, um, and that's cool. I think she'll have to extend that lead out ahead. And you mentioned not wanting to spill the beans. Do we want to talk about Leah Lucas or no? Are you guys aware of this? This is the French are coming. That prior 57 kilo lifter has dropped down to the 52s and has a total posted at 440 that they did
Oh
in
wow.
yes. So yeah, I'm not sure if you guys were tracking this, but if you guys look at the Good Lift nominations, the disadvantage Leah has is she is in the B group
Right.
as the nomination list. So that is going to be a challenge, but it also means that she can lift unopposed and just try to put up the biggest total she can and just say, hey, here's what you guys are going to need to do. I did not get an opportunity to watch Leah Lucas's performance that was just in April in France. That was at the SBD showdown. And she totaled 440 on a 9 for 9 day, weighing in at 51.8. So it could have been all nine, all three maxes on the top end, but she went 165, 87 and a half, 187 and a half at 51.8, dropping down from being historically a 57 kilo lifter. So there is another challenger in the mix. There's going to be a relatively high barrier set in that B group, which is something I think we need to bring up as well. So not only is there, of course, the legend, the prior 52 kilo French lifter who is, Noemi Alibert, who's going to be in contention and is looking like she's back on the rise. But there's also going to be another French lifter, Leah Lucas, who is going to have a pretty big total, most likely, that will kind of be a target for some of these lifters who are looking to get on the platform. So it's going to be a really interesting battle.
We got Evie and Megan at the top for the nominations, but then we have four lifters 440 and up. Four
Yep.
lifters who have hit 440 and up. I mean, and right after that, two lifters who have been 430 and up. Like this is crazy close to get into that onto that podium. You cannot slip up. Um, Matt, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's good. I agree with everything that's been said. I mean, clearly we've got the top two there in the Kiwis, but that fight to get on the podium is going to be an interesting one. It's nice to see that Noemi Alibert has pulled 200 in training. If I'm not mistaken, that's one of the heavier training pulls that she's done in quite some time. In previous preps, I'm seeing between 190 and 195-ish to kind of round out the prep. And now we're seeing 200 that she did on May 3rd, and maybe there's more meat on the bone there as well. For us to see a resurgence with Noemi, she's going to have to, much like I said with Heather, she's going to have to get out of the squats clean. She's going to have to make 3 squats there and at least 2 of those benches. She takes really small jumps, Noemi, in the bench press, so we're probably only looking at 2.5 if she misses a third bench. But if she can get out of there, out of the squats, and get to a subtotal with 5 or 6 successful lifts, she can be a serious threat with a 200 kilo pull, because the other ladies, don't, Catherine from Canada and Ploon don't have quite the deadlift, in their arsenal. So it's nice that Noemi, if she's, in an 8 for 8 situation, can kind of gauge the field and kind of name her number. Whether she's going to be able to do that remains to be seen. But it's last year it looks like you had to. Ploon came in third last year, I believe it was, with a 443 kilo total at Worlds, and I think it's going to take at least that much and then some to be in that bronze medal position this year. So it'll be fun, presumably, to see Megan Lee and perhaps Ploon maybe ping pong this world record back and forth with some chips in play, and I think that's going to be valuable. So yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to the final round of deadlifts here with as I said, Noemi being the biggest puller of the group, not named Evie Corrigan, in a really good position there, provided that she's clean heading into the deadlifts. If she starts missing, then clearly she's going to be out of the equation. And then I would probably defer to Ploon and Catherine. And again, that's, I mean, good on you, Eric, for pulling that up with Leah, because she completely was not on my radar. So it'll be interesting to see what she could put up in the B group. Be like you said, a pace setter.
Rory, any added notes?
Most of the stuff that I want to say has already been said, but I will just add that obviously Evie was not thrilled with her Sheffield performance, but she's really mature as an athlete. And some people take a hit like that and they can spiral a little bit or struggle to recover it. And Evie's just not like that, right? She takes a hit like that, and then she's upset for a few hours, and then goes away and does a debrief with Jason Clark, and comes up with a plan for how to not repeat those mistakes. And that's part of how she's got to where she is, right? Is that she's very, very, very mature, very good at those kinds of things. So yeah, Sheffield, not her best performance, but I don't think that we're going to see the same mistakes from her again at Worlds that we have seen at Sheffield. Something pretty unusual would have to happen for Evie and Megan Lee to be not both on the podium, I would think. But I wouldn't count Megan Lee out of taking a crack at first either. She is looking really, really strong. Evie's still the favorite, clearly, but actually, I think it was Eric said it earlier. Evie won't be able to afford to be skipping lifts this time around, I don't think.
All right, I got $1 million on the table. I want to swing around this table right now. You guys are going to tell me who you pick to take bronze. I'm going to start with Eric. You could use $1 million, Playboy. That's a lot of research. A lot of research
Oh,
money. Let me
so
fund it.
if I don't get this though, I am in debt $1 million.
I'll
To to be clear.
I'll take a handshake and it's just my million. I'm gonna let you off the hook. That's the type of
Mm,
nice guy I am. How you like that?
that's very kind of you.
I'll add another six. I'll add another 6 episodes to our sports science series. How's that? If
No, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna say Noemi Alibert. I feel like she's been
Ooh.
cooking something up that maybe she's going to be in a position. I do think, to Matt's point, it's going to really. I think we'll know whether I'm going to lose $1 million or not get my additional 6 episodes after the squats. So, but I think Naomi Alibert has got a good shot. Um, so we shall see.
That who's your bronze medalist?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing, and it's because of what I said earlier. And Noemi missed 3 key attempts last year, and still was only 7 or 6.5 kilos outside of bronze. So I'm going to say she's going to clean that up. She's going to come out at the subtotal with a minimum of 5 lifts and be in a position to load up for that bronze medal position.
Rory?
To be clear, do we have to split the $1 million or is it a million each?
Let me talk to Tal about the finances on this. I may have misspoke.
Okay.
Nothing's in writing. You know how flimsy I am on video. All right, go ahead.
Uh, I'm really debating this. I am, however, leaning towards Marie Joaquin from Canada. She's got not the biggest deadlift out of the rest of the pack, but one of the bigger deadlifts out of the rest of the pack. She has a higher hit rate than some of the other lifters here. And I think importantly, the Canadian coaching team have their heads screwed on really tight. And they will do a good job of picking out attempts that she is going to be capable of making. And so, whereas some of the other teams, I think, let what the athlete wants dictate where the attempts go, I think the Canadian team will put on what she's actually capable of. And so I think she will come out of this with more attempts than some of the other lifters. And she's in a good position with not the biggest deadlift, but a relatively big deadlift.
Now there's 2 Canadians in the mix.
There are.
And it's I mean, I ain't mad at you picking a Canadian being on the podium, Playboy.
Man, there is
I
2
ain't mad at that
kilograms
at all.
between those 2 women. There is 2 kilograms between those 2 women. Like, it's neck and neck.
We shall see. All right, you guys ready for the 57s?
Sir.
Let's do it. I believe 57s, Matt, you have this one.
Yes, sir, I do. I think I can make a really strong case for this being the best weight class in terms of battles on the women's side of the entire meet. I am ecstatic for the 57 kilo session, and really excited to be taking two Brits into battle here. We have got a super star-studded cast because we have the returning world champion from the past 4 years competing. Jade Jacob won last year. The year before that was Natalie Richards. And the 2 years prior to that was Joy Namani. So we've got world champions galore. Joy is a 4-time world champ. Jade's won 1. Natalie Richards has won 1. We've got 2-time European champ and silver medalist from last year in Bobby Butters. We've got Pau from France, who just recently won Euros on a I believe it was a 6 for 9 day and still posted up 485. So, I mean, to say that this class doesn't have a superstar cast would be to misspeak greatly. So let's start kind of at the bottom. And I think what I'll do is I'll kind of work my way up. If we take a look at the nominations, I just want to say here on the outside, kind of looking in, according to the posting, is Natalie Richards. But we realized that 485 or 482.5 total that Natalie recently put up at Powerlifting American Nationals was just done to basically secure the win, to punch her ticket to get to Worlds. We know that Natalie is 500 plus capable. As a matter of fact, in the 3 previous meets prior to Classic Open Nationals, Natalie has gone 500 plus. She's totaled as high as 516.5. And so clearly we're talking world record capable. There was a time when she was world record capable in the squat, until she injured her back. So that's kind of the story of why she pulled out last year from the national team, is due to a back injury. And then I know more recently she had a hip flexor injury. And I think the entire question surrounding Natalie Richards is just going to be her health. So what we've seen from her recently is on May 11th, she squatted 150 for 4. She recently also did on the same day a 99.5 times 3 in the bench. And then the heaviest pull I've seen from her is a fatigue single on May 21st to the tune of 200 kilos. And it looked very casual, very pedestrian. So I do think that if Natalie has returned to health, that we can see circa a PB total out of her, because that 482.5 nominated total is clearly not representative of her top end, provided that her health returns to form. When we're talking about Pau in France, she hasn't been posting much. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen really anything since Euros, but I was there on game day. In Spain, she won the 57 kilo class there, missing her first 2 squats, had to come back and get her third one. It was because of depth. And then she missed her third bench, but all of that still was to the tune of 485 kilos, with her PB total only being 490. So presumably if she can clean that up, she's going to be inching closer to kind of that 500 kilo total that I think is going to be required to make the podium. Last year, the bronze medal position was 480 kilos, right? And we said that Natalie was out of the competition last year, so Jod was more or less winning comfortably last year. But I think it's going to require a 500 kilo total just to get on the podium this year. I don't think you're sniffing the podium with less than 500. That brings us next to kind of Bobby Butters, 2-time European champ, took the silver medal last year. Not really going to divulge a whole lot of numbers here, just kind of play my cards close to your chest. I will be coaching Bobby on the day at Worlds. Joy Namadi will be held or handled by one of our other assistant coaches. But looking forward to working with Bobby. She just recently, as a matter of fact, today pulled the heaviest training that she's ever done in a prep leading into a championships. So it's really nice to see that her deadlift is coming around. That's always kind of been considered, and still is, to be fair, the weaker lift in her arsenal, but she executes like a pro. If you know anything about Bobby, her execution is really on point. If she misses the lift, it's not going to be because of a technicality. It's going to be because she wasn't strong enough or I picked the wrong number. So it's nice to go into battle with somebody who, really upholds the standards of competition. Likewise with Joy Namani here, she's healthy. She's in top form. The deadlift is coming back around. The world record is 231.5. I believe that's held by Jad Jacob, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, Joy has pulled 231 before. And so, that's the big weapon in her arsenal that I'm sure she will be looking to load up. And of course, I really could have and should have begun the conversation with Jad Jacob. The last we saw of her was at Sheffield. And clearly she was dealing with a tremendous amount of externals at that point. She'd lost her significant other, as recently as last November in Stanley Oden. And I believe she was injured because when she came into Sheffield, she clearly just wasn't herself for those obvious reasons. And, she only squatted 170 kilos and she only wound up pulling 180 when we are used to seeing Jad lift much more than that. She hasn't, to what I've seen, been posting a ton lately. However, today she had a very casual squat of 165 kilos and a 205 kilo deadlift as well. Haven't seen much in the bench. I've been combing through her stories as well. Haven't seen much bench press training that she's posted, but I think the discussion around Jad is where is she? Where is her health? Presumably you would think that her mental health is in a little bit better place. And we certainly hope that her physical health is as well. Similarly, with Natalie Richards. If those two women come in top form with both barrels loaded and they are healthy, then clearly they are podium contenders along with these other women. And then, oh, by the way, we kind of have a newcomer to the class in the Italian Serinaldi, who most recently posted up a 515 kilo total at Girl Power. And a couple months ago on Valentine's Day, February 14th, squatted 195 for a triple, which is unbelievable. 195 for a triple. That's 7 kilos over the world record for a triple. Now, I don't think any of us know where her body weight was. I know, Ryan, you said, go ahead. What was she weighing at that? I know you said she's walking around now at about 56.
First off,
yeah,
you said she did that at Valentine's Day. I said you love to see it. You guys no sold my pun, and I am the voice of powerlifting for these puns. And guys, please work with me.
I am not validating that kind of pun.
All right, that's fine. All right, tough crowd. No, Serinaldi.
You got a lot of heart, Ryan.
There it is.
But
there it is. But my man got me. No, Serinaldi was on the podcast. I'm dropping this on Monday. I'm dropping all these on Monday. Monday's going to be a big day for podcasts. But because after Worlds, obviously these are irrelevant. But Sarah weighs in at 56 kilos and walks around at 56 kilos, no cut. And here was the little I was teasing in the 52s. And by the time everyone hears this, you'll also hear the Serinaldi podcast. She's thinking about dropping down to 52. She does 0 water cut, walks around at 56 kilos with a gut cut, water cut, and maybe drops kilos before that. She thinks she can make 52. And it won't be anything pressing. She thinks she's doing this relatively easy and feels great. And to your point, Matt, 195 when the world record is 188. And she's taking 195 for a triple.
Yeah, triple.
Under body weight. Under 57 kilo body weight. The world record is 188. She's taking 195 for a triple. And if you're wondering where her total might be, when she totaled 515, her squat was 190.
Right.
She's tripling 195. My dear friends. Yeah. She's a monster. And if she goes down to 52, she has kilos to spare. Her and Evie is going to be a titanic battle. It isn't done yet. I'm just saying. And if Evie's the reigning 52 champ, if Sarah pulls this out and is the 57 champ, it's champ versus champ, head to head, possibly at Sheffield. Stop. Talk about titanic battles. History making 52s could enter the 500 kilo. Ridiculous. But we'll put a pin in this. I'll get hyperbolic. I'll get excited. So let's just chill right there. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue to riff on that chord that you just played, Ryan. So she's already squatted over the world record for a triple. She did 190, like you said, at Girl Power. Most recently, she did 102.5 on March 28th, and I saw a 190 pull from her on the same day, her PB being 220. So we're talking about obviously a legitimate contender here as well. And that's what makes this class so exciting, right? Is that we have, 3-4 women who can legitimately lay claim to this throne that is the 57 kilo title, because we've got the past 3-4 world champions competing, European champions galore. It's just a star-studded cast. And so it remains to be seen on the day who can come in and execute. And look, with Sarah having this gargantuan squat and a bench that is right there on par with some of the other ladies not named, Bobby Butters and Natalie Richards, what kind of subtotal are we looking at? And then it's going to be up to the deadlifters at the end. So it's just like, I mean, if Sarah jumps out to a huge and early lead, it's not that her deadlift is paltry. I mean, she's got the 3rd, 4th best deadlift in the group anyway. So she really doesn't have a weakness, it's almost like she's a squat specialist and a total specialist. So it's going to be really exciting to see her finally competing now at a world championships in this new weight class. So I really think that this, has the makings of arguably the best weight class in terms of, I don't know that we know who the clear favorite is. And I don't know that we know who's going to win because there's just a lot of question marks surrounding, these women showing up in top form and in top health.
And how crazy would it be if Sarah ends up a 52? She's competed as a 69, 63, 57, 52. It's crazy. And I mean, she won world titles in the juniors as a 63. Um, like whatever she's going to do here as a 57 and possibly could do as a 52. Like she's world class in all these different weight classes. It's crazy. It's phenomenal. She's a crazy talent. I love to see Italy on the rise like this, Italia on the rise like this. 57, 63s we'll get into with Chiara, and then of course Gara in the 69s. Like Italy's on the rise here. You love to see the spread. I when these ladies were all bottlenecked at 63, they were leaving team points on the table day after day after day, like multiple days in a row. You could have Italians representing the nation at the world championship. It means something. But here we are. And I don't know. I'm crazy excited for 57s here, Matt. I'll
And
double down on
I,
that.
yeah, and I'll add one thing also, which makes it interesting because presumably, I mean, Sarah's clearly coming in with the biggest and best squat, but you've also got other ladies who are supreme squatters too, and Bobby Butters and Jade Jacob. And oh, by the way, when Natalie Richards' back is up to snuff, she was sniffing at a world record as well. So it's one of those situations where you have some lifters who are used to leveraging chips to their advantage. And if Sarah Naldi takes that off the table soon, and I say soon on her second attempt, if she were to load, 188.5 or something like that and takes that away from the other lifters, then it really changes the strategy of the other lifters there, not, being able to use that chess piece, so to speak, later in the match, because the bench world record, nobody's going to come close to 123 kilos. But then again, in the deadlift, we've got three ladies, presumably, in Natalie Richards, Joy Namani, of course, and Jade Jacob, assuming that those two, the latter two are healthy there, who could load up with the chip as well. So, I mean, this has all the makings, I think, of the most competitive weight class on the women's side.
Eric, Jade, I don't know if she's 100% based off what I'm seeing in posts. Natalie as well. Both those ladies are 100% capable of winning the world championships. Well, no kidding. They already have, huh? Both of those ladies, elite, phenomenal lifters. But Sarah Naldi looks 100%. Sarah Naldi looks 100. But I don't know if I could say those other ladies are not. There's just question marks around it. But if there was going to be a question mark around Sarah, it would be, can she make weight and be strong? The problem with that is that question mark has already been answered now. We asked her. Let me get your take on this.
This is a cool weight class, and I'm pretty excited about it. Um, I think, I think, unfortunately, it does not look like Jade Jacob is up to her prior peak. I think it'll be a lot better than being 60 kilos down like she was at Sheffield. Will she be completely regain those 60 kilos and then some? Because that's legitimately what she would need with the current contenders. I just don't think so. So I think, unfortunately, when I look at that 205 she pulled and what she's done historically prior to competition, I don't think she's going to be in the 230s, which is probably what she would need to confidently secure the title with how tight it is, which means she's probably not going to be able to use that chip advantage because I think Sarah Naldi is probably going to be the one who comes away with the squat record. And, Joy is another one who could potentially, pick up a chip and pull for something, but I don't think it'll be pulling for the win. We know she's got a big deadlift in her. There's been times where she's just barely not gotten even bigger numbers than that, but Joy also doesn't post a lot. So she's a bit of a question mark that I kind of keep looking at like, is she a threat? But my money's actually on Sarah Naldi. I think that she's going to win this because Jade Jacob is vulnerable, not being all the way fully on the rise. And Natalie Richards, I think it's going to be probably in second, but has a potential to win as well. I just don't know where her health is at and what she can do. So I'm like 60-40 thinking it's going to go Sarah Naldi and then Natalie Richards, but it could go the other way. And then I think there's going to be quite the battle for the podium to see where everyone else is at. And I think that's going to be super interesting. If Jad Jacob is 95%, then she could be fighting for a podium spot. If she's 90%, maybe not, you know. So, you know, there's a battle between the two Brits and maybe Jad Jacob for the podium, maybe Powell. It's really tough to say. So, like that top five is going to be tight, and that's going to be awesome to see.
All right, Matt, I got to let you off the hook because I know you're coaching two ladies here, and you have to back your ladies. So let me pose this question like this: between Jad, Sarah, and Natalie, who comes out number one between those three?
I would say Sarah for the same reasons that Eric says. I mean, if she's already walking around on body weight and she's the healthiest of the three, then I would say I would go with her.
And Germany and Italy are not far. I mean, it's a pretty favorable trek
Yeah,
over there.
right.
Not a
Exactly.
lot of time zone change. Rory, we're throwing the Brits in there for you, sir. Unless you're
Mhm.
feeling because of Commonwealth you have bias and you can't.
No, no. If
Okay.
anything, that means I want England down the bottom, right?
Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. So what do you think? Who takes it?
Look, I think I have to back Sarah Naldi as well. Like, she's not cutting weight. She's looking strong. She's looking healthy. As you've said, she doesn't have to travel very far. Like, all of these are sort of like very favorable conditions. On a good day, I would back Jade Jacob or Natalie Richards. Jade just Jade's just hurt. Like, I've actually seen a really good bench press from her recently. I've seen her do a 105 kilogram bench double just like in the last couple of weeks, which is
Oh,
like very good for her. Um, but she's like, uh, forgive me, my French is extremely elementary, but like when she's posting that deadlifts and squats, she's using words like pain, rehab, uncomfortable, like these kinds of things. And so she's like, I don't know exactly how unhealthy she is. Like, I don't know if it's the kind of thing that she can put it together for one day, but it isn't boding well. Um, and Natalie Richards, I think is like less bad shape than Jade, but certainly is not at 100% either. And this is the kind of competition where you're not going to be able to walk in at 90% and still win, right? I don't think it's like that. So yeah, I have to back Sarah Naldi.
And to be honest, I mean, you said if Jad and Natalie were 100%, but after Worlds, we might be discussing whether or not, even if they are at 100%, they could total what Sarah totals. I got a feeling Sarah's going to have an absolutely monstrous total. But let's see. Only time will tell. Only we have multiple world champions in here, and let's see how this all shakes up. The 57s are red hot right now.
loaded.
Not all of them appear to be 100%, but who the flip knows come the day of. And then if all is said and done, Sarah says, with the total I posted up, I would pose to you, it wouldn't matter if they're 100%. But I think she's going to be humble and not talk like that. That's how her supporters might. We'll have to see. All right. You guys ready to move on to the 63s? Okay. So moving on into the 63 kilo class, Rory, I believe you have this one.
Yes, so I'm going to go in sort of two packs here. I've got what I'm going to refer to here as the chase pack, which is the five women that I'm picking to finish between sort of fourth and eighth, and I'm going to go through that reasonably quickly, and then I'll talk about the three women that I'm picking are going to be on the podium. So sort of in the chase pack, and these women have all totaled between sort of 500 and 515. So they're reasonably tight with each other, but they're not particularly close to the three women that I think are going to be on the podium. There's like about a 30 kilo spread between probably the third place and fourth place, I think, unless somebody really pulls something out of the bag, which is of course possible. So in that chase pack, we've got Kaylee Sue from the Netherlands. She did a reasonably good total at Euros. She's done 513, she's done 512 and a half, both of those sort of in the last 6 months or so. Haven't seen a lot of training out of her, but if she hits something similar again, we'd be looking for sort of like a 510, 515 there. Also from the Netherlands, Betty, obviously Betty, huge deadlifter. Haven't seen a lot of deadlifting training from her, at least nothing that's like particularly notable from her. But her bench and her squat and training are actually looking really good. So her best total is 508, but I have seen her squat 7 kilos more than that. I've seen her bench 5 kilos more than that. So, if she's able to put those things together along with her best deadlift on the day, we might be looking at sort of like about a 515 there as well. And then Abby Wallace from Australia, 502 and a half, and also Shay from Australia, 500 kilograms, sort of neck and neck there. Both of those totals, I believe, were from Australian Nationals, which was only a few months ago. And just on Shay, she's been competing for 10 years now, and she is still PBing her total on a regular basis. And That's not something that we see from very many people. And I just want to highlight that as being like a really cool note. Like I don't see Shay coming in and hitting a 540 and getting on the podium. But I wouldn't be hugely surprised if she comes in and she matches that 500 or maybe scrapes a small PR total with a 505 or something like that. And then from Canada, Emily Zerlinden, she has been hiding her training loads. So I've seen quite a lot of secondary movements from her. It seems like she's heavily favoring like safety squat bar squats at the moment. I don't know if that is deliberately hiding her training or if she's potentially injured and is doing less of the primary movements and sort of shifting load into like more favorable exercises while she's injured. Like, I don't know what the story is there. But all of her comp specific training has been posted in black and white. And Eric and I spent a little bit of time yesterday going through them and trying to figure out what the training loads were. And they were reasonable, but they weren't insane. But I've seen a lot of really good safety squat bar from her. So, maybe that means a good thing. All right. I want to talk about the top three now. We've got from Italy, Chiara Bernardi, from Sweden, Alba Bostrom, and from the United States, Meg Scanlon. Mostly looking really good here. I am actually going to suggest that Chiara is looking the strongest right now. She has squatted 205 for a triple, which is equal to her comp PB. To be fair, it was a hard triple, like metaphorically nosebleed hard triple. But comp PB for a triple. She's benched 120 for a double, which is also her bench press PB. And she's deadlifted 230 for a double, which is 15 kilos over her comp PB. She hit a 560 total at 64 and a half in April. So that's about a 2% cut from 64 and a half to 63, assuming that she did not already cut to 64 and a half, assuming she just like rocked up and that was what she weighed. I went back through her open powerlifting history, and there is one other time that she's done this where she's gone sort of competed as a light 69, and then sort of less than 2 months later competed as an at weight 63. And when she did that, her total went up 20 kilograms. Not suggesting she's going to come in and hit 580. That would be, I mean, I would love to see her come in and hit 580. That would be amazing. But I think that's a good sign that, she's cutting what I think is a reasonable amount of weight. She has a history of doing this and performing well. She doesn't have to travel very far, and she's just looking really strong, like really strong. So it seems insane that I'm I'm looking at Alba Bostrom and Megan Scanlon and saying, yeah, no, I think Chiara Bernardi's going to have this, because these are two like incredible athletes. I will talk about them very briefly. So Meg Scanlon has competed like a number of times, like a couple of times recently. She competed at Sheffield. Prior to that, she competed at, I don't remember what the name of the meet was, but US Nats. And I think there was actually one a couple like maybe 8 weeks before Sheffield as well, like a local meet. Yes. That she did as like a tune-up. Right. So she's competed a few times recently. Her training is not looking crazy since then. It's just like looking roughly consistent with what she did going into those meets. So I've seen like the only real notable training lift I've seen is a 140 double, which I don't think was technically to standard, but looked reasonably strong. And then Alba Bostrom, her training looks okay. Her bench is looking very good as well, actually. I have seen her hit a very good 130 in training. Her comp PB is 133 and a half. But otherwise, I'm not seeing anything in her training that's sort of making me think that she's made huge strides since her recent meets. Obviously, she had a bit of a disappointing day at Sheffield as well. So if I'm picking the podium, I'm saying number 1, Chiara Bernardi, number 2, Meg Scanlon, number 3, Alba Bostrom.
Let me throw a little bit of perspective here, and that could be a shakeup. Well, I mean, that would be a shakeup, but that could be a hot take here because a lot of people, obviously, Megan Scanlon at US Snaps posted up the biggest 63 kilo total we've ever seen, albeit domestic, got you, but she is obviously a grizzled veteran when it comes to international competition. But the strongest 63 that ever lived, and the reigning world champ, and we might see an upset. That's what you're picking. But to give a little color and perspective on this, Chiara tripling 205 on squat and prep. The world record is 214. Just throwing a little bit of perspective here when someone might be saying like, wow, Rory, that's a big call here. Well, she's taking her previous PR 205 and tripling it, but not just perspective on what she's doing with her previous bests, and her previous best is phenomenal. The squat record is 214. So we're talking history level squat here. Now, 120 for a double on bench, her previous best bench is 120, and she's doubling it. And then, of course, the deadlift. And this is what's also interesting if you want historical perspective. So her previous deadlift PR, 215, and like Rory said, she's taking 230 for a double. But again, more perspective, 233 is the world record. So to Rory's point, we got a young lady here who might be taking world records in the squat and deadlift disciplines. That is how quickly you add up to a possible world record total. Proof is in the pudding. I'm not entirely sure. Is she doing all this on an SBD day? Where's her body weight at? I'm not sure. Let's see. But I'll add to you this. She's young. She's rapidly moving. She's used to international levels, used to international travel, done multiple world championships, won world titles in the juniors, been around several medals in the open. This is Chiara Bernardi we're talking about, right? This isn't some young upstart that we're like, well, what if she can handle the pressure. She can handle all the intangibles. She's done this plenty of times. She just might be hitting her stride. And she's the age where you're going to start seeing prime stride. It isn't crazy. What I'm here to tell you is what Rory's saying isn't crazy. As crazy as it may sound, Megan Scanlon's the strongest 63 of all time. She is. And Chiara might be ready to level up on that. It happens all the time in sports. I'm not saying it's about to, but this is a possibility. This is very, very interesting.
That 560 that she did at 64 and a half kilos is above the 63 kilo total world record. Only just, and she was heavy, but like she has totaled more than the world record in a competition. That's got to be worth something.
Yeah. Now Betty is full well likely to take that. Like this is her world record, and she's likely to grab that chip. So there's other contenders in play, and we'll have to see where she ends up taking that world record deadlift. Betty coming from behind might end up being a piece of this, where Chiara's like, well, thank you very much. I could have used that chip. Who knows how it all plays out, right? Everybody's a part of it. I'm interested. Matt, what are you thinking on this?
I'm not betting against Meg Scanlon. I think at this point in time, she's arguably the best lifter on the planet on the female side, not named Agata Sitko. We've doubted her in the past, and she continues to prove us wrong. I think she's still ascending. And yeah, I'm not betting against her. She seems to be like a fine wine. She just keeps getting better with age. And so I think for me, I'm leaning toward Meg Scanlon. She also has a higher hit rate in terms of attempts made than Alba and Kiara, albeit slightly. And yeah, I think in my mind's eye, the fight there will be for silver and how the second and third place is going to shake out. Because I think as Rory said at the start, we've got the chase pack, and then we've got quote unquote the big three, and so it's really a function of how the podium is going to shake out. And I think the real answer is who's going to be coming in second and third. Because for me, I'm putting my money on Meg Scanlon.
I'm gonna toss to Eric for the tiebreaker here, but first, who is your second and third, Matt?
Man. Gosh, I don't know. You got me.
And you got me, Playboy. We know this. Well, who's your second and third?
Another Valentine's Day. Why don't we shake it up? Why don't we shake it up a little bit? I'll go with Kiara in second and Alba in third.
Kiara is showing up in her training right now. Makes sense. Eric Helms got a little smirk on his face. You're here. Both these gentlemen make excellent points. I love it when it comes down to a split decision when there's two great opposing views.
I think there's actually a case you can make for all three of these, and I'll explain the Alba one. If people remember, I incorrectly bet on Alba for the Sheffield, and that was based upon age and the fact that she is the youngest and has the highest, besides kind of recently where we've seen a little bit of a stagnancy, she had the highest trajectory of improvement. I really do think we are kind of just waiting on a ticking time bomb with Alba, where things line up and she has a leap in performance that is, oh my goodness. Or at least that potential should be there. If you look at other lifters her age at this level who have been lifting as long as she has. So I don't know what stars need to align, but I have a feeling that we are going to see a bigger total come out of Alba. It may not be at Worlds, but it might. So I think that's interesting. And I, like Matt, am not going to bet against Megan Scanlon. As much as the 560 gym total at 64 was above the world record, I'm going to take one actually done in competition at PA Nats under pressure that is higher than that and also unofficially above the world record that Megan Scanlon did. So for me,
to be clear, that 560 wasn't a competition. That was not a gym total. That was an in a meet.
Off body weight though, right?
Off body. It was off body weight, but it was in a meat. It was not.
Okay.
It was not.
Apologies. Okay, then I will take the meat total on body weight over the one that is off body weight. Apologies, and thank you for clarifying. So for me, I got to go with Megan Scanlon, and I think that the only kind of other reason why you might want to put your money on the other two Europeans is that they're traveling to Germany while Megan is traveling from the U.S. But when I do all the algorithm stuff in my brain, I still land on Megan Scanlon in the first spot. And I hate to say it, I do think then my next vote would be Sarah Naldi. She's on the rise, and I'm just waiting on Alba's explosion into her next phase. And
Kiara.
Apologies.
Kiara?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I sorry. Team Italy. Yeah. So I got Kiara in second after Megan, and then Alba Bosterman third. Acknowledging that Alba maybe has the highest potential, but we doesn't seem to be just based upon her training that it's going to be there at Worlds.
Yeah, between Kiara and Alba, they're both, I think, around the same age, mid-20s, and their future is who the flip knows where they're gonna go. But Megan's Megan, and you guys are right. It's tough to bet against her. She's been around the block so many times. She was at IPF Worlds in 2019. It was a different world back then. It was a different sport back then, and she was breaking total world records.
So Kiara's 26
There
and
you go.
Alba is 23.
Oh, okay. Bit of a spread between them, still around, entering their primes anyways. Like I was saying, I think Alba's future's ahead of her. Kiara might be hitting her peak right now at 26 then. That kind of does what I was saying earlier about is this just gym? And that's great. You're doing it in training, or is it indicative of no, 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 I've just now started hitting my prime around 26, 27, 20. That's where we're used to seeing. I don't know. We're gonna find out real flipping soon. And eventually, and we know this, the weight class is gonna level up, yes, yet again. It always does. I don't know what that looks like. Only time will tell. And I promise you, we're not going to have to wait all that long. But yeah, this is a good one. All right, let's move into the 69s. I don't think we're going to have any major surprises here with some of your guys' picks for number one. But Eric, how are the 69s looking, sir?
Well, obviously we gotta Shitco. And if there was like your big three and then chasers here, I think we got big two and then massive traffic jam. So
Mm.
what do we need to say about Agata Shitko? I mean, I don't want to not say some things about Agata because she is the best power lifter, arguably. That's all, period. So, like she needs her flowers, and we need to acknowledge that she is coming just completely unopposed, and I will eat my hat. If she doesn't win, unless she bombs out for some reason, like there's something completely weird that happens. She's in training, totaling low 16s, and mid like probably somewhere in the range of 6'10 plus. So completely untouchable, and it's incredible, and it's going to be awesome to watch. And she has plans to become a even more weight class dominant lifter, which I'm really excited to see. But I think she's got a job to do. She's going to come in, knock out the 69s, and that's that. After that, we have an unfortunately seemingly injured Carola Gara. I don't know how much that's impacting her. There's not a tremendous amount of data to be gleaned from her posting, but she has talked about a back injury and she hasn't posted lifts since February. But she's a very consistent lifter, high hit rate, obviously, very experienced and has a total that is, nominated almost 20 kilos over the next lifter down the line. So before her back injury at 68 kilos on February 5th, there was a 225 squat, which is equal to her competition best that Carola Gara put up. But outside of that, we don't have a whole lot of information. I haven't checked her Instagram today, so unless there is something you guys caught that I didn't, we're flying a little bit blind on Carola. So if she's in bad shape, we could potentially see a Celine Crum from the U.S. Maybe being right there at her heels. And Celine is very consistent, very high hit rate. Just did very well, obviously, to be here at Worlds, at U.S. Nationals. And it is her first Worlds, and she is, super consistent. She's on the rise. She's coming up in a weight class. And she had room to spare in her squat at PA Nats. So I think she's going to be doing really well. I don't think it will be enough, and unless Carola Gara is substantially down in her total to not be in a. I mean, I think she's definitely could get second, but I'm predicting her as rounding out the podium at third. And then things get a little complicated because we've got a whole bunch of lifters all hanging out in the 550 range. And I just noticed today on the nomination list that Chandler Babb, USVI lifter, former world champion, is actually down at the bottom of that nomination list and appears to be lifting in the C group. And she is a 550 kilo total lifter, not the most consistent, sometimes struggles with depth on squats, but you can't deny it. She's a world champ. She could potentially be totaling something that is right around what is rounding out that fourth through fifth kind of spot. So you've got a lot of lifters all clustering around that 530 to 550. You've got Marta Jenner, Annie Nelson from Great Britain. I'm sure we'll get some insights there to the degree that Matt can give them, and more. So those lifters are all. The thing is that they're all looking good too. Like if you look at their training,
Yeah.
Annie Nelson's looking solid. She's on track for a PR total. She was fifth in Lithuania. She's a consistent lifter, typically going more than 7 out of 9. She hit a pretty easy 210 deadlift on the 1st of April. Um, uh, a, what looks to be a pretty big personal best, probably incoming for her bench press. She hit 127 and a half just like a week ago or abouts on 19th of May, and equaled her PB at probably not a full max on squats, 18th of May at 205. So Annie's on track probably for a PB. I'm not sure where her body weight was for those, but looking solid. And Marta Jenner, who has been a very, very consistent lifter, and I say that as a positive and a negative, not a lot of improvements necessarily in recent years, but is on track to actually hit a PR total this time. So she did 237 and a half, which is a PR on her comp deadlift on 23rd of May. It looked very hard, but I mean, hey, 7.5 kilos more, you'd expect it to. She'd benched 135 at Bench Worlds. So that's in competition, obviously not having to squat first, but still, that's a really good sign. And she hit a 205 kilo squat, which is a decent PR as well on her comp squat of 197 on the 11th of March. More recently hit 200 kilos in April. So Marta Jenner might be totaling something closer to 560 than her kind of projected 550-ish. So with Celine Crum, I think also on the rise, they're kind of moving forward. And it's really a question of, does Carola Gara slip enough to where either one of them is going to be threatening? And then how much on the rise is Annie Nelson? Because we might have quite a battle between like third and fifth, and they're probably going to have some relatively large total that they need to get over in Chandler Babb coming from the I think either the B or C session, depending upon where she ends up lifting. So it's quite an interesting thing, and there's a lot of really good lifters. You know, Ivana Horna, who's been around the block for a long time, is there. Um, Georgia Burton from Italy. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Marie Jose Van Daal from Netherlands, and they're all also in that 530-ish range. So we've got just a tremendous traffic jam from third through eighth, maybe, to be honest, in terms of the kind of totals we're seeing. So it's very difficult to predict after the podium, but I do think it's my personal prediction is that it's going to fall basically on the nominations. We're going to see Agata, Carola, Celine, because even though Celine is closer to the people who are clustering around fourth through sixth, her being on the rise, going up into the weight class, and just being the most consistent lifter out of all of them, I think she's in a good spot to secure that bronze.
So I can add a few notes here. In terms
Mhm.
of Chandler Babb, yeah, the two-time world champ, and it looks like she's hitting PRs in training. Squat on the platform 187.5, and she squatted 205. Benched 117.5, and she's benched 117.5, albeit back in February. A couple days ago, she deadlifted 240. She's deadlifted 240 previously. So she's probably around the mid 550s. If she's around the mid 550s, and again, a two-time world champ, she's used to traveling. She's used to the world standard. She's used to head-to-head competition. She's been through it all, as you would assume. If she's around there, it she could be a roadblock for anybody trying to get onto that podium. Talking about people trying to get onto that podium, Mark Jenner, very interesting here. Now, if you look at if so, this is where she's not necessarily doing SBD days. I don't know, but she's got some massive PRs. Now, if you just string along the added kilos onto her previous PRs and start adding up kilos like that and add it onto her total, you'd be like, well, I see a pathway where she's a major threat against Lean the Machine. However, are they SBD days? And is it going to fall out like that when you add all those days together like that? And all of a sudden it's all in the same day and you're in comp, etc. It's usually a little more difficult. And then on top of that, Celine the Machine isn't exactly standing still. Her progress has been consistent. And another thing with Celine the Machine, not only has her progress been consistent, her performances are as well. Rarely misses. She's as sure a shot as you're going to get. So it's very difficult to to bank on those kind of things. But even having said that, I think Mark Jenner with this prep looks phenomenal, is probably going to have a PR day. So like you, Eric, I think we'll see some big numbers out of her. It's just, can she catch Celine? It's going to be tough. That's going to be tough, but she'll be at the world championships with the world watching, hit some PR totals. She is world class. €1 and the whole nine. Don't get Evie to give you her whole resume, but she deserves to be here and she's going to show up, show out. Now, the big question for me is Carola Gara. Gara posted, like you said, back in February before the injury and then showed a squat. That was in February. That's in February. And we haven't, okay. You were posting in February that you're injured. In February, we're June, and we still haven't seen anything since. I don't know if that's you're back on track and about to give allow me to reintroduce myself moment, or if things just haven't gotten better since February. If they haven't gotten better since February, this is serious. And if it's serious, Celine Mart, I mean, who knows? Maybe Gara's just showing up, giving it her all. She'll be top 5, but to ask for podium's too much. It's concerning when it's February and it's your back. And all this time later, we still haven't seen anything since. That's concerning. That's concerning. But she would not be the first to just keep her cards to her chest and not let you know. It's just historically she posts. Historically, she posts. If she's 100%, yeah. I mean, Agata's obviously the favorite. I mean, this is Agata's world. And Gara is an absolute Hall of Famer the first time she's up for ballot. And Celine the Machine, we kind of see the spreads, right? Don't we? This isn't, this isn't great math. You need to see the spreads. But there's some question marks around Gara. And if she's as bad as she might be, Celine is no joke. 5'6" to 6.5, and she's probably going to be stronger on that day. What are we talking? Maybe 570s? And if Gara's 582 and a half at her best, and you're not on your best, you might get bumped. You might get bumped. It's all conjecture, though. I just don't have the data points. Matt, Rory, you guys want to jump in here? Because I know this is a particularly tough one with these question marks.
You've pretty much covered it. But I do just want to say, just in the interest of like completeness, for those who don't know, Ivana Horner is really fun to watch. So like I'm looking forward to watching this session, both because I think there's going to be a really cool fight, particularly around that third position. Obviously seeing what Agata Shitko is capable of, really cool. But also Ivana Horner, former world champion, make sure you put some respect on her name. Is she going to get on the podium? Like probably not. But she'll have a great time, and the audience will have a great time watching it as well. And so I'm really looking forward to this one, but that's the only thing I wanted to add.
Fair enough. Yeah, going back to 2017. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I don't think that I have too much to add either. I think that Eric really did a nice job there of summarizing the class. And again, the biggest question mark, as you said, Ryan, is Carola's health. I chatted with her in February, and she said she'd turned the corner and was feeling better. But, to the fact that we haven't seen anything lately, again, that raises some eyebrows and some questions for all of us. The only thing that I'll say about that fight for that bronze medal position with Celine, presumably Marta, Annie Nelson, and of course, Chandler lifting in the earlier session, kind of being the pace setter, is the fact that as consistent as Celine is, and she is, matter of factly, the most consistent lifter in this class, she's also the least experienced when it comes to traveling internationally, because she hasn't. I have no reason to believe that her consistency is going to wane now that she's doing it in a different time zone, a different country, stricter judging, etc. She seems to rise to the occasion. I'm just putting that out there. This is uncharted territory, first worlds. And so what she has in consistency, she lacks in experience. And it will be interesting to see how that affects her on game day. But yeah, I mean, looking at the spreads there, and again, assuming Carola is healthy, we all hope that she is, then it's really going to be a fun fight there for that third position. and just on paper, it's looking like Celine has the edge. But I will say this, Marta, to me, I think she needs to let the rope out a little bit on the squat. She's been, she hit 200 kilos comfortably in her prep prior to Euros, and then they only loaded 197.5, I believe it was, for a third attempt, and she had room to spare. So I think, she's in a position where she could score some extra kilos there and secure some extra points, so to speak, by being a little bit more aggressive in the squat. And all of these ladies that are going to be lifting in that A group, their deadlifts are all, presumably within 5 kilos of one another. So that really makes it exciting as well, because lot number comes into play and changes at the end and so forth. And who's going to be deadlifting what and when in the flight. So I just think this is going to be fireworks for that third podium spot. And I'll be there right in the thick of it.
Okay, gentlemen, you guys ready to move on to the 76s? Let's do it. Eric, I believe you have this one as well. Kindness of sirs.
Yeah, so this is one that I have been intimately involved with in the past when I had the pleasure and privilege of coaching Jessica Bittner during the creation of this class. And cool thing is that Jess is moving up to 84. And it'll be really cool to see how she fills that out. We can talk about that when we get to the 84 class. But that leaves a slightly new cast of characters a bit in the 76s after the current reigning world champ Carlina Tongotea, who most recently totaled into the 600, 616 is what she's coming in nominated at. And she is a phenomenal lifter, one of my favorite lifters to watch, and just an awesome person. She really showed up and showed out at the Sheffield, totaling 616, only missing her last squat where she attempted 236, and she's looking good. And kind of what I have noticed with Carlina is that she is making some pretty good, steady progress on her squat, her bench, and the deadlift has kind of been hanging around right that 250, maybe 255 at best mark, but she's very consistent. She's good. She's got a pretty high hit rate. She did a 238 squat on 30th of May, and I'd say that was pretty dang near max. She did a 132 bench press on the 30th of May with a short pause, but I wouldn't say it wasn't a paused bench. And then 250 near max deadlift on 11th of May. So she is someone who does train heavy. She shows her lifts. When she is close to her comp bests, you can expect her to be at least at that or slightly above on game day. So I'm forecasting her as definitely taking, the win and potentially moving up her subtotal. And then I don't think she will be threatened to the point where she is going to necessarily not have the opportunity to put what she wants on the bar for the third deadlift. I don't know if she will do that. It really depends upon the new entrant to the arena here, Crandon Warford from the US, who just totaled 590 at PA Nats and really looking good. She is relatively young. She's 25 recently, and she is very strong. Difficult to gauge where she's at in terms of her potential and performance. She is a pretty big influencer on social media. She has over 500,000 followers, so the videos she posts include her training, but they are definitely not your typical power lifter who's like SBD day, this date, triple here, 7 RPE, and with clear projections of where you're at. I had to kind of comb through her training to get hints at it, and it's not clear as to when these were posted. But if you kind of add up her training totals, she's done a sub-maximal 570s is what we're looking at. And that's a good spot to be at this stage prior to the peak you've shown us at 590. So I think she has potential to be close to 600. And that does mean that Carlina needs to be on her P's and Q's, but Carlina is just too consistent. I don't see her falling back to a number that doesn't start with 6, and probably a number that doesn't start with a 6 and a 1. So I think Cranon is relatively locked for her spot in second place. But I will say that the French lifter, Laura Motulin, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is looking good. She did 172 and a half for four in May, and that looked pretty submaximal. And she just competed at Bench Worlds, and her previous comp best bench was 145. She did 147.5 and actually attempted 156. So that's obviously the world record. So going for that, it might have been a why not. I didn't actually see Bench Worlds, but that makes me think there's probably a 150 in there, So that's pretty cool. I also don't know if she regularly lifts beltless, but she did a 240 beltless deadlift mid-May. I don't know if that's typical, atypical. I think if the translation from Google was right, I think she was dealing with some pain, talking about endometriosis, if the translation was right. So that might have been in and around working with pain or something that she has to do to deal with that. But nonetheless, she's on track for potentially PRing on the platform. So not much squat footage outside of that submax, 172 and a half, but there is probably a world where she can actually push Cranon to see if maybe, hey, you need to not slip up, or if you're just at the same strength level that you were at nationals, she chucks another 5 kilos on her bench, she chucks another 5 kilos on her deadlift, and she can stay in the same spot for her squat. We're looking at something in the 580s, and now Cranon really can't afford to miss. Another question mark, unfortunately, because there's just no data on her, is Lucy Stefanikova from Iceland. And that is just, I can't find any information on her, but she has a registered nominated total of 563 and a half. So that is going to be interesting. I'm not sure where that's a good step above the next few lifters. And Matt, how do you pronounce the Great British the GB lifter Temitope? Is that right?
Yeah. She just goes by Temi.
Temi? Okay.
Temi.
Yeah,
Yep.
Temi is looking good. She's got,
Hmm.
three comps at 76. I think this is her first time at Worlds though, right?
Correct.
Um, So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how she performs. I don't have a whole lot of training data on her, but she's a pretty consistent hit rate. And yeah, and then there are returning folk. Also, the other British lifter, Sophia Ellis. She's looking good. She's a consistent performer, very big deadlifter, and also a bench press that seems to be on the rise. She is dealing with knee injuries, and I haven't seen a lot of squats, so whether or not her squat is just kind of holding steady while she's working on her bench and deadlift, or whether it is down, is going to really dictate which one of the Brits is placing higher and potentially reaching towards, that third and fourth spot. But I think we're probably going to see a podium that is Carlina, Cranon, and Laura, but is by no means set in stone, given some of those intangibles, the lack of information on Lucy, and just depending upon the limited insight that Matt will be willing to give us. And there's also the Brazilian lifter Bruna, who is coming in, Bruna Bissell, nominated at 541. Not a tremendous amount of data on her available, but yeah, I think we're probably going to see a podium that is maybe 580 and up, which is pretty impressive.
Okay, let me swing around the table with something right here. Who thinks, give me a yes or no, Cranon totals over 600 kilos? I'll start with Eric.
I'm going to say yes. Over to 600 count for over 600 kilos.
Pardon? Is equal to or
The,
over?
yeah, I think she's good for 600.
Yeah.
Matt?
Agreed. 600.
Rory?
Yes. Cautious,
Okay.
yes, but yes.
That also means all three you think Carlene is going to win because of its at 600 or cautious 600. I don't think any of you think Carlene is going below 600. So we're somewhat in the 76 is settling into our 1, 2, 3, potential upsets underneath, threats coming up from underneath to try to get to the podium, but it's somewhat, does anyone have words of dissension towards or words of caution towards? And look at Carlina is since arriving in the 76s has become a mainstay here. And while some people come and go, some rivals come and go, she sticks. And sometimes when you stick around long enough, you start piling up those wins and packing quite the legacy. Now, proof is in the pudding. And if she slips up, Cranen is close enough now if she's in the sixes. And Cranen's progressing in a phenomenal talent. The year after this, it won't be just six. We'll be talking 610. And the year after that, remember it was 585. Now we're talking six. By next year, what are we talking? But for right now, anyways, Carlina, very consistent. You swing through the 76s, you're gonna battle her. And she's used to battles. She's been in quite a few of them. She'll get a win over you and start collecting onto that resume. Another Hall of Fame resume being built here with Carlina Tongatea. So anyways, yeah, I'm looking forward to the 76s. If you guys are ready, we can move on to the 84 kilo class. Is there any notes someone wants to add, or Rory did a phenomenal job, or sorry, Eric did a phenomenal job there?
Was that just racist? Is it because we both live in like
That's
Oceania?
you got all the same to me. All the
Yeah,
same
okay.
to me.
I do just want to add, Laura, who Eric is projecting for third, super volatile lifter.
Yeah.
She just misses a lot of attempts. I think the first time I watched her internationally, she went like 6 for 9. She's got some 9 for 9s on the record. She's got a lot of 7s. And gonna say the French team, I've seen them make mistakes at Worlds with attempt selection in the last couple of years. I think she's volatile and could place anything between about third and about sixth, sort of depending how well that shows up, I think.
Yeah, I agree with what Rory just said, and I was just going to add to that. I mean, if she's, continues to be volatile, the door could swing open. Just a little note on Temi, just briefly. This will be her third meet at 76, kind of like Eric said. And at every single meet that she's done at 76 now, she's had a really big jump. So it's like she's growing into that class very well. She had a 12.5 kilo jump from her first to second, and then a 15 kilo jump from her second to third. And oh, by the way, that was at Euros. Just recently in Spain, where she set a lot of European Masters records. And so, but she's going through a lot of life transition, just moved to Kuwait, new job, et cetera, et cetera. So she's got a lot of externals, but I do anticipate an improvement on her total. It looks like her training is on par. And again, Sophia Ellis, no stranger to international competition. Recently, I think I can't remember, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, snuck in and took deadlift gold in this weight class. I mean, like Eric said, been dealing with some knee injuries. Well, I think she's turned the corner. Don't know if she'll be in the realm of a squat PB, but bench and deadlift are definitely on point and definitely on form. So, I'm sure she'll be looking to potentially secure some medals there. And, those two lifters kind of working themselves into the top, 4 or 5 range.
Matt, would you like to take us into the 84, sir?
Yes, sir. Happily. If you like the high hit rate and a lot of made attempts, this is the class to watch because it arguably has the highest percentage of makes in kind of the relevant lifters that we're looking at and we're talking about, when it comes to the podium. And I mean, clearly this conversation begins and ends with Amanda Lawrence. We're looking at a 5-time IPF world champion, and all signs are pointing toward her becoming a 6-time IPF world champion. And that's no disrespect to anybody else on the nominations. It's just that, there's this huge gap between Amanda and the rest of the field. So likewise, like we kind of saw in the 69 kilo class with Agata, I think we're looking at something similar here. Amanda, to Eric's point, when we did the GOAT podcast, arguably the greatest of all time, lifter on the female side. Recently did a 250 kilo squat just a few days ago. But that's something that we've seen from Amanda in a lot of preps and just hasn't come to fruition, where her squat has returned to form on game day. And when I say return to form, I'm talking to world, record capabilities, where she's done 256, but she's kind of been hovering right around that 245, 247, 250-ish range in the squat, but did do a 250. She finally crossed that 300 pound bench most recently at Powerlifting American Nationals, where she was able to hit 137.5. And I'll say this, Amanda totaled at Powerlifting American Nationals 635. So I know the whole discussion has been, we haven't seen her total move that much in recent years. She's kind of been right in that circa 645 range at the last three meets. Had she secured that final deadlift at Powerlifting American Nationals, that would have given her a very small PB total, I think to the tune of 0.5. So it looks like Amanda's training is on the upswing. We're talking about a consistent lifter. She's obviously in the driver's seat unless something were to go completely wrong. I think we're looking at another, world championship gold medal on her mantle, so to speak. And then what we're looking at is we're looking at the rest of the field. We've got Ziana Azariah, obviously from Great Britain, looking to total 600 internationally. She just recently did that at the British to the tune of hitting some really big lifts, including a 225 squat, 265 deadlift. And look, she's in that world record range clearly when it comes to the deadlift. And I know that, that'll be something that she's going to want to set her sights on. I've seen her deadlift training recently, not going to say any specific numbers, but I can say that's definitely in the cards. And so presumably, I know that Amanda probably wants, to push that world record deadlift as well. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how lot number shakes out and the two of them going for a deadlift battle. And I think also, in the third position there, at least on nominated totals, we've got Jess Bittner, and she's no stranger to competition, former IPF world champion. And the questions surrounding Jess recently made a coaching change. Of course, Eric can talk to that. He's got all the data and the history on Jess. It's just, can she return to that peak form that we've seen at 76? She's only done 3 comps at 84. And it just seems like the numbers haven't accelerated to, I think, what we would anticipate with a weight class change. Most recently, on May 25th, we saw a 212.5 squat from Jess, a 105 bench. You would think, I would think with the weight gain that the bench would have moved a little bit more, but I think, for whatever reason, I know Jess has got really long arms. It's just always kind of, the bench has been her Achilles heel. And so I don't know if that's moved that much. Her PB in competition is 105. She actually tied that in training. She pulled 230 as well. Fun fact with Jess, she's ultra consistent in the squat. She has not missed a squat in her last 10 competitions. So, that comes down and speaks volumes to her ability to execute under pressure and execute at a high level in the squat. And so I think I think that the top 3 there are pretty solidified with Amanda, Ziana, and Jess. And I think the question is, can Jess manufacture enough kilos to kind of be in contention with Ziana for the second spot, And I think that, with a big deadlift, it's certainly a possibility. I just don't know if we can anticipate her kind of returning to that form. And then just some other notables. Yanfei Zhao, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct.
Yanni.
Yanni, sorry.
Yanni,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rory, for the correction. Yeah, hasn't done a lot of posting in terms of the bench and the deadlift. Most recently saw a 195 triple and squat. Again, these ladies executed the high level. All of them seem to have a 7.5-ish or better hit rate. We've got Melina Irawao from Great Britain as well. She competed recently on our team at Euros, won the European Championship. She is in top form. She's looking to equal or add some, incremental PBs from Euros. Also mentioned Allison Riley, who also competed at Euros, came in second. to Melina. She's not just a bencher anymore. Looks like her lifts have been coming around. But I think, and those are kind of the notables for me. I'll let the rest of you kind of chime in. But I really think the big question here, past Amanda Lawrence, is just what can we expect from Jess Bittner? And I'm just not sure. I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding what type of performance we can anticipate from Jess.
Okay, so I got some questions. Exactly. Let me snowball off this. So for Amanda Lawrence, a little bit of color into the U.S. Nationals. She got injured leading in. People weren't sure if she was going to do it. She was, I mean, a far and away in the lead, so she didn't really have anything really to worry about there. Showed up and said essentially she wants to compete at U.S. Nationals. A lot of people are going to be there. I mean, if you watched it and everyone's talking about it, the most relevant U.S. Nationals maybe since 2019. She saw the roster and was like, how do I not show up and be a part of this? I'm not 100%, but it'll be phenomenal. And said, and I think rightfully so, a U.S. national title still nice on the resume no matter what. So she showed up, was not expecting a PR day, but wanted to be a part of the party, and that's where she was at. But again, so it's been a little time. We're hoping the injury, which was an abductor injury, that's going to affect the squat. And this is where she needs that squat to move to return to form and improve upon. And I'm not sure. I think maybe she's getting back to 100%, but to be able to improve upon, I don't know. I hadn't seen that yet in terms of posting. So that might have set her back a stitch. So I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see any kind of big monster total. Again, we know what's heading our way in the future. It is what it is. The get to shit go. Amanda Lawrence super fight is coming, but let's just wait with bated breath. That's not in this conversation right now. But I do want to ask Rory, and I'll also ask Eric as well. But first, I'll kick it to Rory. What is your impression of Jessica Bittner here? What are we looking at? As a 76 in 2022, she did 585, was the world champion, and looked absolutely on another world, just phenomenal. And here we are, 2025, a nominated total of 571 and a half, up a weight class. The training numbers aren't indicating a PR, but she is up a weight class and she is an absolute phenomenal talent. She's got the Canadian coaching staff behind her, which are grizzled veterans. What do we anticipate? Well, I know the notes here. Can she return to 76 form? My goodness. I remember when she was a 76, I remember thinking she's capable of 600. Now we're kind of looking for her to do 585 as an 84. How do we turn this around? What's happening here? Because she's certainly young enough to turn this around. Nobody's closing the books on her.
Yeah, look, I don't have any special insight as to what's happening here, but like looking at her training and her recent competition performances, like this is not the meet that we're going to see her return to, like that peak 76 kilo form. Like, and I remember I think we even did the preview show together where we were talking about her hitting, we thought she was within 12 months of hitting 600 at 76. I think the move to 84 is good for her. Those cuts into 76 were punishing. She was getting into the low 80s, and then cutting 6 kilos or so into the 76s, and that was just absolutely punishing for her, right? We have not seen the improvements that you would normally expect to see, especially on bench, but like both squat and bench, of somebody going up a weight class. Normally, what we would expect to see is somebody who goes up a weight class can put on a substantial amount of muscle, and then that substantial amount of muscle turns into a substantial amount of kilos on the total. And like, we're not seeing that. I won't pretend to know why. I think she has time to turn it around. I don't actually know how old she is. Is she 28 now? Something like that?
30.
She's 30 now?
30.
Right. So she's got time to turn this around. She's got time to be able to figure out what's going on and correct it. But yeah, she is still a fantastic lifter. This is not the meet that we're going to see her, go close to 600.
And all right, let me ask Eric, because you might have some data points on this. Yeah, 30 years old. She's got time. She's definitely got time. Ask Meg Scalen, ask, whatever, ask Jen Thompson. You, she's got she's got time. Nobody's closing the book here. Um, it's just, what do you think? Because obviously you coach her at the world's level, grabbing all types of titles, and also you are a nutrition coach, so you know all about that moving up a weight class and what you might anticipate. What are your thoughts on maybe this world and possibly the future? Maybe the future she has time to turn it around, grow into the weight class, etc. What are we looking at?
So yeah, some inside baseball, but very respectful, to make sure that I don't share anything that I don't think she has shared personally or would have shared or would share. So, I tread cautiously here because I'm not her current coach, and I did work with her for almost 4 years. So, um, some things that I think are just apparent is that when we first started working together, we were doing bodybuilding, and we purposely gained weight, and she almost got up to 200 pounds. So she put on a good chunk of muscle, and I think we successfully kept that, then coming down to compete at 76. Um, and I don't know that going back up to 84 is necessarily netting her more muscle, based upon where I've seen with her coming back. Like we kind of hit that peak of muscle mass, and it wasn't something. Let's put it this way: she's excellent at retaining muscle mass. And one of the things that we did was we changed her weight cutting strategy to be far less harsh. But I was very impressed at how resilient she was before we even implemented a lot of those changes. So qualitatively, she expressed on podcast, that, man, the weight cut was a lot easier, doing things in a more effective way, did not have to cut as much, and did not have to use some of the same extreme methods. But if you looked at what she was totaling and training and projected to do before she put herself through some pretty brutal weight cuts before I started working with her, she still was able to perform on the platform. So I think, to her credit, her body is highly resilient. She doesn't lose muscle mass from dieting down, and she doesn't lose much strength even from much type of weight cuts that some people would just not be able to perform under those conditions. So I probably agree that just not having to deal with a weight cut at all is it'd be at least less emotional stress, more sustainability, and more enjoyment in the sport. And those intangibles can't be overlooked. But I don't necessarily think it's going to net her more on her total. And I don't think she's necessarily putting a lot more muscle mass on going up to 84 just based upon when she was that heavy when we worked together. And I don't think her training data indicates that. So I had a fantastic run with Jess, and it was great. And one of the things that she's very open about, and that was a focus of our coaching, and I think we talked about this when we were both on podcast together, is finding a way to work around a relatively hectic lifestyle. So she will regularly post about how her she's has type 1 diabetes, and that can impact her sleep, that impacts life, of course, and it's even more impressive what she's accomplished given that. She's also a pharmacist, and was doing that at Walmart. And there are times where she'll post, "Hey, it's midnight. Should I go to sleep, take a nap, take a Monster and train?" Those types of posts are a regular occurrence. And unfortunately, as well, she deals with recurring minor back injuries. So the amount of effort and focus and time she can dedicate to making her, one of the best deadlifts in the world improve and be consistent is limited by that. So I think it's a really good move that she's trying out RTS. So that's her current coaching staff, and they are Mike T is the progenitor of autoregulation. How do we gauge your fatigue? How do we deal with a changing and unpredictable state of recovery and modify your training around that? I quite literally did my PhD on Mike T's work. That's how much respect I have for him and the way he thinks, and that whole coaching system. And I think from my perspective as a coach, if I was to, be in service and go, hey, what are the things that are the potential bottlenecks to your performance improving? And this, again, like I said, is nothing I haven't shared publicly or that we haven't talked about in either podcast that we did together, is not directly related to training, but related to the environment that is conducive to high level performance. So hopefully moving up to 84 gives her some more recoverability. Hopefully working with a team that has their entire coaching philosophy embedded with the concept of auto regulation is enough. Or maybe the fact that, hopefully her life is becoming more stable. But those, I think, are probably some of the reasons why we're not necessarily seeing the same increase in performance you'd expect from someone going from 76 to 84. And I say all of that with respect and hope that I'm wrong, and the desire that I want to see her do fantastically well. I love Mike T. I love Jess. I'm rooting for them. And that is just, my take. So I do believe she's capable of 600 and more, to be honest. And I really hope she's able to get all the pieces in play that enables that. And yeah, that's not like I said. To be, I'm walking on eggshells because I don't want to. It's easy for the ex-coach to be like, well, they were better with me and now they've moved on and they'll never achieve that same peak. And I really don't want it to come across that I'm saying that. I want the best for Jess. I believe coaching is about service, and if whatever works best for her to get to her where she wants to go as an athlete is what I want. And I hope that we see that at Worlds. The data doesn't indicate that, and I think the reasons I've stated are probably why.
Yeah, I think as a 76, she could hit 600, and as an 80, this is like full peak Jess, all progress the same, whatever. And as an 84, I would say into the 600s where we're talking 610, 620. Like Jess is a freaking phenomenal athlete. 30 years old, she's in her prime years. Um, so I am going to be forever hopeful because yeah, I'm from Canada and that's our girl. And she led the charge and held the flag for so long. And, she's like an icon for us. So we'll see. Time will tell. It looks like, if nothing else, she'll return to IPF Worlds once again and a medal favorite and still in contention, still in the hunt. She's not by any means an also ran and has plenty of time. And let's see what the future brings. And I think we've covered the 84s and hit all the major stories here. I think we're ready for the 84 pluses. And this one, my man Rory, what are we looking at here, sir? We have some big lifts that are going to fall here. Sunita Mulu, who established herself as the strongest power lifter on the women's side that ever lived, tested or untested. You know what that means? She became the apex predator on the women's side. It's the same title they gave Jesus Olivares when he was the best powerlifter, tested or untested. And Sunita gained that same recognition. And the queen returns at IPF Worlds. Rory, what are we looking at for the 84 pluses?
Okay, I'm going to move through this in a little bit of a funny order here. So I'm going to start with Mackenzie Lai from Canada, and the reason that I'm actually starting with her is her best total is 650, which on paper puts her in range of some of these women, but she's lost a substantial amount of weight since she did that 650 total, and her recent performances are more like 610 or 630. So I don't think that she is in serious contention for, podium, anything close to podium here. A little bit like we talked about in the men's preview show, there are some people who just do not have the frame to be in the super heavyweight class. Like if you want to be a really good male super, you probably need to be between 160 and 180 kilograms. To be a really good female super heavyweight, you need to be really probably in the 130s or 140s. And Mackenzie's just like, she's dropped out of that range. It's hurting her lifts. I think that puts her out of serious contention here. Bonica Brown is a really interesting one as well. Her best raw total, she does equipped as well, is 680. And she has done a 689 squat, which is not officially registered because she ended up bombing out of that meet. But she has done a 689, which would have brought her, like if she...
A 289.
Shoot, sorry, 289, which would have brought her to a total of 689 if she'd matched those. Yes, thank you. So like on a really good day, she's good for 690, 700. However, I haven't seen any training from her for quite a long time, so mostly going off her meet performances here. She bombed at Worlds in 2023. Since then, she's gone 9 for 9 3 times and 8 for 9 once. However, all of those totals have been a little bit lower than what she has historically been capable of. They've mostly been in like the 650, 660 range. And so she's a little bit of a question mark for me. If she can hold on to those 9 for 9 performances and come in and be near her peak, she's a real threat here. But if she has lost confidence or has lost some strength and she's genuinely hovering around a 660, that kind of puts her out of serious podium contention here, I think. But I don't want to overlook her because she's Bonica Brown. Like if you were making a list of the best powerlifters ever, and particularly if you were looking at people who could do both raw and equipped, she would easily be in the discussion. So I don't want to sort of skim over her. Mary Lynn from New Zealand, Mary, is trying to avoid too much inside baseball here, is a really interesting one because she doesn't use social media. She is a very new lifter. I believe she's actually only been powerlifting for about 2 years, and she just doesn't have a lot of meet experience. And so this will be her first time traveling to Worlds. I mean, she totaled 673 in like her third competition or something insane. Like, she has the potential. I don't know if this particular meet is the meet where that potential is going to shine through. So incredibly strong. I would not be surprised if in another 2 or 3 years we were sitting here and saying, yeah, like Mary is one of the people to beat. But I just think that for this meet in particular, I don't think this is that meet. And so, you know, my hope for her as one of the Team New Zealand coaches is just that, you know, we can build some attempts, build a total, have a performance that she can be proud of, and get that experience so that when she comes back next year and the year after that, she's got, you know, got like a bank of experience to draw on, and that she's able to handle that pressure really well. So I think that would be a really good outcome for Mary for this meet. Now, the two Australian women are sort of neck and neck. We've got Natalie Lalai and Lucy, sort of at 673 and 685. So that's about a 12 kilo spread, which at these ranges is, we're talking about like one missed lift kind of thing. So Natalie is a phenomenal deadlifter. She has deadlifted more than the current world record deadlift. Her best deadlift in competition, 283, a world record, by the way. Did I get that right? Yes. Sorry, I briefly was like, wow, 383? No, 283, and the world record is 273.5. So she's about 10 kilos ahead of the world record deadlift. And due to, I believe it was a misload, they sort of accidentally loaded some insane weight for her in a competition. It was accidentally like 325 or something like this. And she got it like halfway up her shins. Like,
yes,
it wasn't like
to her knees.
Close. But she broke the floor with like 50 kilos more than the deadlift world record, which and a near miss with a 304 as well. If I remember correctly, that was to take a crack at it might have been best overall that was to take a crack at Australian Nationals. So,
and that, yes. Can I just say, that was not some Hail Mary bullshit 304 either. That was legit.
That was a legit attempt. Yeah.
It's crazy. Her deadlift is like at a horror levels of what the hell are we talking about? Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So she is an absolute weapon. Absolute weapon. And she generally makes a lot of attempts. Like when she misses attempts, it's mostly because she's, you know, putting on a big deadlift. And then we've got Lucy, who actually won Australian Nationals with a 685 here. Um, Stronger squatter, stronger bench presser. Also in world record range for the deadlift, though not quite the same like phenom that Natalie is. So 265 squat, 150 bench, 270 deadlift. That deadlift record again, 273.5. And there's going to be a little bit of a theme here that deadlift record, I think, is at serious risk of falling probably multiple times.
Yeah.
So Lucy is incredibly consistent. She has not been competing as long as many of these other women, more than Mary, but less than pretty much everyone else. But she has only missed 3 lifts ever. So I don't know if that means that she has been holding back or if it means that she has a really good handle of where her strength actually is. But regardless, I think that that's a good sign that she is going to be able to come to Worlds and sort of perform, if not to the exact same standard as she has been able to do domestically, that she is going to be able to come in and put up a big performance here. Her training has not looked incredible. It's looked okay. And to be fair, she has not been posting a ton of lifting itself. I've seen a couple of lifts, but I think she's been dealing with a personal tragedy recently, and that has taken a bit of hit on her ability to sort of focus on training and performance. So I'm not totally sure how fit she is coming into this, but I do have high hopes for her anyway. Brittany Schlater from Canada. So her best total is 720. She's squatted 290, benched 157, deadlifted 280. So again, that deadlift world record just if I was a deadlift world record, I would be feeling very unsafe right now. So Britt has not, I haven't seen her post a bench, but I've seen her safety squat bar squat at 265 single at like maybe a 7. And for most people, if you've never used a safety squat bar, most people take a massive hit on that compared to a regular squat. It's way closer to like close to a front squat, right? Like, you might be doing 60% of your max kind of thing. And like, clearly that's not the case there. I'm not saying that she's going to come in and squat 400. That would be cool though. But she's clearly looking incredibly strong. And her deadlift, oh my God. I've seen her do 275 at like opener speed. She paused 270. I've seen her do 260 for a double. That was a PR double. I don't know what she is doing with her deadlift, but whatever it is working. She's just like PRs in relevant rep ranges, hitting PR deadlifts in the 1, 2, 3 rep range and on variations that matter, right? Like comp PR, pause PR, comp deadlift, pause deadlift, like PRs on these things, even if they have not yet turned into a PR on a 1 rep competition deadlift, they're a good sign that that's the direction that it's heading in. So look, I don't know what Brittany is going to deadlift, but I'm picking it is going to be big. And now finally, Sunita, as you called her, Brian, the apex predator. I mean, she squatted 318 at Euros, and it was fantastic. It was good. I believe it was actually her second attempt. She went 300. She opened on 300, took 318 for her second, and then just didn't come out for a third attempt. The reason she didn't take 318 at Sheffield is that she said she felt like 318 was a sure thing and she didn't care to hit it, and that she was just going for like the next thing along, which is really
boss.
something. Yeah,
that's pretty boss.
That is
700 means something to Americans only. What is this?
Exactly.
Come on.
Well, she's Belgian, so in addition to some really big training squats, of course, we've also seen a 285 double from her, which percentage-wise is lower than I would normally expect, but it was a PR for her, so that is a good sign. Bench press, I've seen her double 145, which again, percentage-wise lower than I would expect, but again, PR for her. So good signs that the bench press is also improving there. I don't know if she is still doing it, but I know that historically she has deliberately lowered the emphasis on her deadlift in training so that she could focus more on squatting. And so I haven't seen a lot of deadlifts out of her, or at least I haven't seen a lot of notable deadlifts out of her. And I don't know if that means that she is hiding it because it is great and it's a weapon and she's saving it. If she's hiding it because it's not great and she just like doesn't care to post it, or if it's just been de-emphasized so that she can squat more. She is, I believe, experiencing some bicep pain, and it is in particular impacting her squats because it is impacting her ability to brace on squats. And so the majority of her squats have been really wonky. Like I think I can't remember which side it is now, but if you watch the videos, you can see like one side is quite a bit higher than the other, and it's sort of impacting her ability to get a really strong brace there. So this is one of those cases where I'm really struggling to pick who is actually going to win here, which is a surprise to me. Like if you told me 2 years ago that Bonica Brown was going to be in a list and I didn't have her at the top, I would be blown away. But I think this is probably going to be one of those cases where if Sunita can squat what she's actually capable of squatting, she's going to be in a fantastic position. You know, if she can come in and she can squat, say 325.5, which I think is what she missed at Sheffield, that would put her in a very strong position for the rest of the day. That sort of has her setting the pace for the remainder of the day. And then if she makes 3 bench presses, hits a decent deadlift, she can push other people to, she kind of sets a high tide mark, right? And then other people are going to have to improve on that. Of the people that I think are sort of in serious contention for the podium, she does have the smallest deadlift. So it is going to be one of these cases where she's going to need to set the deadlift, hit something that she can hit, and just hope it's enough to push people to something that they cannot hit. I don't know where Britt is at, but I think she is coming in very hot, and she does make more attempts than Sunita. Over her last 5 meets, she's averaged 8.2, which is one whole lift more than Sunita at 7.2. So I think Britt is going to win. I think with she's looking strong on squats. She's got a big bench press. And she's just got a weapon of a deadlift. I don't know what her max is at the moment, but it's a lot more than 280. I suspect that she will be able to grab a deadlift chip as well. I don't think she will walk away with the deadlift record, however. I suspect she may be able to grab like perhaps a 285.5 on her third, get the chip, but then potentially Natalie will come in and actually finish with the record. But Britt still gets the chip as far as like the tactics associated with getting that extra half a kilo. So if I'm going to call a podium, first place, Britt. Second place, Sunita. Third place, Lucy from Australia. But again, if Sunita can come in and squat what she is capable of squatting, I think that that could very well be in danger.
A couple notes I want to throw out here, and then we'll swing around, have some questions. But let me add, Brittany usually lifts pretty submaximal in training, and you could see a big jump when she comes onto the platform. So when I tell you that, and Rory read off the numbers she's hitting in training, I need you to really take that into account. Right? That's number one. Number two, Sonita 6 days ago had posted, speaking about burnout. Now, Rory had alluded that maybe some of the numbers she's hitting isn't quite what he had figured. You might, if you're going to have PR, and look at it, PR for Sonita is, I mean, she's got the biggest total we've ever seen, period, in women's powerlifting. So for her, PR is historically huge. And it might look as though some of these numbers aren't trending towards massive PR, maybe. I mean, I look at, 285 for a double. That's freaking, she put in there, that's a PR. It's a rep PR. We're not seeing I haven't seen the big single, but if you got a rep PR for a double, maybe she's got a single PR in her back pocket. I'm not sure, but she had alluded to in that same caption that we're talking about the squat PR burnout. And burnout is real, but I'm going to show up in battle. And then Joey, her coach, Joey says in the comments she'll show up. And I don't know what to glean. I don't want to read too much into it because she's entered into several competitions with certain things plaguing her, and she shows up. She's a gamer. Once the lights go on and the chalk starts getting applied to her hands, she'll scrap it out. And when Sunita scraps it out, historic numbers fall. So, but we all know Brittany's a gamer as well. Don't bring me back to Malta 2023. This is a tough one. This is going to be, this is a very, very, very tough one. Also, let me say, when you're looking at the 1, 2, 3, if you're looking at the Aussies, and I know you see with Lucy 685 and phenomenal talent there, I'll echo that. With Natalie, Nat at 673, keep in mind she's got a deadlift that if she's pulling for a bronze position because it's worlds and not loading up for best lifter type deal, her deadlift is ungodly big. Ungodly big. And that's 673. Don't believe that that's her top end. She just wants to throw on, she could throw on a whole lot of kilos onto that with her final dead if she just doesn't lob a huge deadlift at the end. And that 304 that could be there at Worlds. Huge shakeups can happen at the end. So let me swing around right here. Let me ask you first, Matt. What is your top three? And then I'm going to throw it to Eric.
Wow. I kind of have the same feelings as Rory. I think, I mean, if Sunita squats, which she's capable of squatting, it might be too much of a gap for Brittany, but I think we're in a situation where Brittany is beginning to close that gap. And I think Brittany's going to be in a position where potentially she could load for the win. I mean, her deadlift, as Rory said, is just absolutely insanity. I mean, when you just wrap your brain around pausing 270 kilos, I mean, it's just mind blowing. I don't know. For me, it's kind of a coin toss in terms of 1, 2. I guess if I were a betting man, oh man, it's so hard. I guess I would bet on the current champ only because, and I say this respectfully, and I've said it before, every time Sunita gets a ding or gets an injury, she comes in and still, rises to the occasion. So I have no reason to believe that, that wouldn't happen again. It just feels like she's a little bit more vulnerable, because of this shoulder thing that she's dealing with and the bench not being there. And then the deadlift just hasn't moved much lately, and it's just, when you're built like these 84 pluses, and Sunita's poured so much into the squat that, it makes, the thighs bigger and it makes it harder to complete a deadlift. So they're definitely my 1, 2. I think Natalie is going to be in a position to pull, and we might see a 300 kilo deadlift, but 304 in Australia is a lot different than 300 in Germany just because of the travel. So I know I'm kind of waffling there, but I think Brittany will be in a position to load for the win. Okay. And I think Natalie will clearly be in a position to load for the podium, and I think she will. And they've got to space out her attempts a little bit better in my mind's eye. They can't be doing such tight deadlifts. You're not winning with your opener. So I'm just reminding the Aussies, open lighter and take a little bit of a bigger jump.
Just on that, I will say Natalie does live on the close side of Australia. And given how enormous Australia is, the difference between being the East Coast and the West Coast makes a difference of about 8 hours travel time.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah. It's, flying from Sydney, I'm looking at 26 hours into Germany. Flying from Perth, she's probably looking at 20 or less, which obviously is still a lot, but is way better than 26. So, but
that's great.
It helps a little bit.
Matt, you're waffling, and I like maple syrup with my waffles. So and I love when we have a split, and I get to throw it to Eric to be the decider between this split. And you're right, 1 and 2 could be switched up, and 3 and 4. This is an extremely difficult podium to pick due to everything we've already said. Mm-hmm. Eric, help us decide. How does this podium appear?
Yeah. So just to echo Rory's point, Perth is like same time zone as Hong Kong, Malaysia. It's like coming from Asia as far as time zone differences, and that's really what we're talking about, not just the travel time, but also the circadian change. So it'll be less than the other Aussies, notably. Um, I also have Brittany Schlater winning this, and the reason being is that she seems to be improving, and I do think she improves upon her training on the platform, and she's the bigger deadlifter. And if you guys recall, prior to Sheffield, I want to say we saw Sunita pull like 280 in training on her YouTube, and 20 kilos less than that when it came time to be on the platform. And so they're a bit different in that way. I have no doubt we're going to see a big squat, but Brittany is going 8 for 9 or more. And I think they're close enough now that the difference in one lift, with Sunita probably being similar to where she was and Brittany being above where she was, within the heaviest weight class among the women, when the two strongest women on the planet, we're looking at a value that is going to be the separation between one and two. I think that could be a 15 kilo swing easily, and that is enough. So I'm betting on the consistency of Brittany Schlater, previous world champ, and I think she's going to come back and take the title. And it's really cool to see that, unlike the super heavies and the men, we have some titans battling it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got Brittany pulling for the win, and then I also have Natalie pulling for the podium, because I think when I saw that misloaded 320 something get to her knees, I was like, my God, there's more in there. And that stuck with me. That may not be the most rational decision, but that got me very excited. So I think that, like you said, that 673 nominated total might be something more like a 690, when if she's able to keep pace enough in subtotal. I think Natalie subtotaling, but not overextending too much on the squat, puts her in a really good position to secure bronze with a good pull, and she's going to be pulling last. So
It's the super heavies on the women's side is fantastic. Has been ever since 2023 and continues to be an absolute just barn burner brawls. It's you can't miss it. The entire podium right down. And we might see a 300 kilo deadlift and a huge shakeup for the final podium spot. Natalie's going to load. Jacob Sofianos is their coach, and they are ballsy with that final deadlift, and they should be. When they loaded for that best lifter with 304, it was there. It was an appropriate call, and they will have the final say to get onto that podium. So let's see what happens. Gentlemen, holy smokes. What are we doing here? Back to back 3 hour podcast, 6 hours of preview show. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is, but you guys are the dream team. Super appreciate everything. Did anyone crunch numbers for overall nations? Um, yeah, we did a lot of research for the other stuff and talked a lot, but I didn't crunch numbers for the overall nations. But
I'll rattle a
you
few
got
off.
to think the head coach of Britain is maybe considering.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it shucked out last year. I believe it was. I believe it was USA, France, New Zealand, Italy, New Zealand, and GB. Those were the top five, and I suspect that they will be the top five again. And you know, perhaps GB and I look. I can't wave a magic wand and guarantee the women's trophy, but hopefully we can move up, and secure some additional medals. I think that's our legitimate goal on the women's side. But yeah, I see those five nations, being in the mix, obviously, and maybe just the order changes.
What I'll
depending
what
on
I'll add
Coral,
to the New Zealand side is that New Zealand is starting to send bigger teams. Like historically, when we've come fourth and fifth in the past, that's been with like 5 or 6 lifters. And
Right.
we've now got 7 men, 7 women, and just like being able to send a full team is firstly a privilege, particularly when you live so far away. Sending a full team from France to Germany is a bit easier than sending a team from New Zealand to Germany, but also just like massively helps the team points.
Yeah, and it massively helps the team points that right out of the gate. I mean, you've got, with Evie and presumably Evely and Carlina and Megan Lee Smith. I mean, there's probably 33 points right there out of 3 people. And that's huge.
And like, even if Mary just matches her total again, that's probably a 5th or 6th place. And that's another 4 or 5 points there.
Yeah. Crazy how good for a small nation New Zealand is. It's just nuts. And also, Italy having those 3 who are bottlenecked in one weight class spread. If Gara's at 100% and can collect the silver, if Sarah pulls it off, takes a gold, and if Rory's right and Chiara takes a gold, holy moly. Italy, I mean, it's huge for the Italians. But we'll see.
The women's team battle is going to be actually quite tight between all these nations, which I think is going to be pretty cool.
It makes it way better when it's spread out and it's anybody's game and the nations are this close. Gentlemen, I think we said enough. We might even said too much. 3 freaking hours, 6 hours of content we produced for the powerlifting community in prep for IPF Worlds. It is still the biggest, most important event in our sport on the calendar. It deserves as much attention, and I am grateful for you guys to have joined. Okay. Here we go. Save it for another one. I'm exhausted. All right, fellas. And for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, 6-pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are out.